My Family Thinks I'm Crazy, a podcast where I, your host, try to give you some tips on how you can explain all this weird, wild, crazy conspiracy stuff to the people you love most. Because that's what I've been trying to do for the past 10 years with no success.
I've been telling everybody that our government is shady, but every time I do, my family thinks I'm crazy. The hollow earth, UFOs, aliens invading, fluoride in the water, they swear skies daily. When I talk about these things, they think I'm crazy. There's no escaping anymore the evil that we're facing. Illuminati mind control, they're sacrificing babies. The end of days, but anyways, my family thinks I'm crazy.
What, they don't want to listen to you?
No, they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear it. They're just like, oh, here we go, Mark. Off again with your...
Mark being Mark again.
Yeah. So, that's the thing about podcasts is when you're on the air, and it's like therapy, If I can't talk to my family about this stuff, I'll talk to you, Matt, and all our listeners.
You'll just tell your whole podcast.
Yeah. So who are we talking about today, Matt?
They think that I'm crazy. They really think that I'm crazy. They really think that I'm crazy. My family thinks that I'm crazy.
Hi, this is Mike, aka Moonwolf, aka Lockstep. My family thinks I'm crazy, and they really always have, ever since I wouldn't accept a literal interpretation of the Bible as a young kid. That's really the first thing. And lately I'm crazy for reading the ingredients on things or believing that non-ionizing radiation is still radiation. Anyways, have a good holiday, guys.
Hi, it's Rob B. Yes, my family thinks I'm crazy, for too many reasons to list. But conspiracy, that's where we agree.
My family thinks I'm crazy because despite living the life of a real housewife, I've never been able to conform to society, and I have a superpower of not caring what other people think. Plus, and nowadays, you cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube.
I'm Alan Marcus, and my family thinks I'm crazy because I sit alone in a room talking into a microphone, and I tell them I'm podcasting. I'm live streaming, and what I say is important, and it matters, and no one else listens to me. And I'm sure your family thinks you're crazy too.
I'm Elle, and my family thinks I'm crazy because I was a scientist that left the big pharma industry to become a Reiki master and sell essential oils and crystals.
Yo, I'm Tuna, and my family thinks I'm crazy for a lot of fucking reasons, but conspiracy ain't one of them. Keep it real, man.
Welcome to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. I'm your host, Mark Palmer, and on today's show, we have an awesome guest. His name is Tim Grimes, making his second appearance here on the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. He's joining us to talk about his new podcast, and of course, we talked about the law of attraction and what's going on in my life and what's going on in 2022. Stick around for the end of the episode, where we speak to my friend Alex Stein, get a little update on everything going on in the conspiracy castle, or should we say fitness castle. Thank you for tuning in to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast, and as usual, show us some love on Patreon. Get a spirit animal name, get some bonus content. You can give us a one-time donation via PayPal. We love that, and that'll get you a spirit animal name as well if you're not keen on Patreon, but you'd be missing out because we have a bunch of bonus episodes there on the Patreon, and all of the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy content goes there as soon as I'm finished, so you get early releases of these episodes as well. So help us out there. We also have some art that we're selling. Check that out. All the ways to support the show are on the website, myfamilythinksimcrazy.com, and join in on the Telegram. Join in the community. We've got so much in store for 2022, and I am so excited to be here with another awesome episode of the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. Shout out to our sponsors. We've got Audrey Lobdell. Check her out for all your tuning fork and Reiki needs. Akasha Goods, where you can find some really awesome candles and other interesting items to raise your vibration. And of course, Fru and the Forest Bathing Services. Find out how to really enlighten yourself in the forest. I still have to sign up myself. And Elle, I got to give a shout out to our friend Elle. She's a Patreon, and she makes these really cool essential oil rollers. Check her out at One Thumb L on Instagram. All of those links are in the description, so check that out. And thank you so much to our sponsors. Thank you to our patrons and everybody who supports the show and makes this show possible. I can't do it without you. So thank you so much, and thank you for listening. Enjoy this conversation with Tim Grimes, spiritual counselor and best-selling author of books like Relax More and Try Less and The Joy of Not Thinking. Be sure to check out his new podcast, Law of Attraction Explored, and visit him and all of the things we talked about at radicalcounselor.com.
Called The Law of Attraction Simplified. So a lot of Law of Attraction titles. So cool. We can talk about whatever. I mean, wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, and I do want to have your podcast on the site too for the cooperative. I think that would be awesome.
Yes, yeah, that'd be great. I finally remembered to send that stuff over. Like I said, 20 episodes into it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's better to be on there with 20 episodes than one or two for sure. So right on.
Yeah, thank you for encouraging me to do it, because it's been fun to do. You know, I thought a lot about how I wanted to format it before I started doing it, and I thought it would be fun to do, and I've enjoyed it more than I even thought initially. So
right on. Well, here we are. It's the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. I know we don't have a lot of time. I'm sorry about the delay, and I'm pretty sure you said you have till 5, right? So
yeah,
here we are, brother. Thanks for joining me back on the show again. For those who don't know, Tim has a new podcast called The Law of Attraction Explored, and I wanted to welcome him back on the show to get into that. We had you on episode 51 to talk about your book, and this is a topic that I think is evergreen for me in the sense that no matter what's going on in my life, there's always an aspect that needs to be reflected on and improved upon. We're always growing, changing, and since the last time we've talked, a lot has changed. My location is still the same, sadly, but that's what, really honestly, that's been a big block in my life right now. Is like finding a new place to live and then not falling into the excuses of like, oh, well, the world is this way and that's why I don't have, an apartment, or I don't have this much money, so that's why I don't have an apartment, and just trying to figure out, exactly, what's going on psychologically in my mind that may be blocking me from that opportunity to live elsewhere. And I'm really, and it's all the more complicated when you're with somebody, because now you're dealing with, the energies and the blocks of two people, so maybe that was super personal, but I'm not afraid to go there. What are your thoughts on that, conundrum that I have right now?
Well, this is what it's all about.
Right.
As you said, when it comes to like the law of attraction, last time that I was on, we were discussing more like reeling, like deep spirituality, like non-dual stuff, which is almost like sometimes we get to places psychologically where like nothing matters, right? Like you can't even describe it. And it's from that space. I'm hesitant to even call it a space, right? That like frame of reference. And for listeners who don't know what I'm talking about, I discussed this a little bit in my guide, The Joy of Not Thinking, which Mark and I talked about last time. From that frame of reference, there's like nothing, right? There's no past or future. There's no improvement. There's no self-improvement. There's just like everything just is, right? And that's a relief in and of itself. So that's like a deep angle when we look at spirituality. But generally speaking, the way most of us are working with spirituality and practicing spirituality in our lives is this constant, process of trying to practically improve things, exactly like you say, whether it's, trying to find a new place to live, or improving your health, or improving your relationships, or improving your finances, whatever it is. And while this, what we were discussing last time was like the real far out stuff where like you just go really deep and like it's very hard to describe, but there's something there. That kind of stuff isn't necessarily even going to improve your life, really. It's just like when you recognize it, you feel a sense of relief, which is like very powerful in my opinion. It's just like, holy cow. But most of this stuff in almost every law of attraction type of thing, which obviously I'm really into as well, is about this process of like self-refinement, where like inevitably you're running up against resistance and you're moving through it. And the more comfortable you feel facing basically this fear of change, the more comfortable you are of just kind of facing it and moving through it while still keeping your focus gently on what you do want. Like, for instance, in this situation, a better living environment, a new place to live. Generally speaking, the more comfortable you can feel while that process is unfolding, the faster it will happen.
Right.
You've probably heard that before, but I think what screws us up so often, there's so many things, quite frankly, that screw us up. And that's what interests me from like a stress management perspective. You hear manifesting advice and it makes it seem like, you vision board or feel as if you live in a new place once or twice and then you just move, you find it. And it very, very rarely happens like that. It's more like, what you want. Your desire is like a real thing. Like it's pointing you where you want to go when you feel connected to it. Like you genuinely want to move to a nice place, right? And then all this inner stuff is saying, oh, this isn't going to happen. There's all these reasons this can't happen. And you basically just have to be like, this stuff's here. And even though all these rational arguments are being made, it's okay, because that's bullshit compared to this deeper thing that's going on where my focus is. My focus remains, my depth remains with what I really want. And all these passing fears and thoughts are not going to remain. In other words, my desire, because it's so strong, is going to outlast them and outlive them. And I'm going to relax into that and let that process unfold as best I can. And as quickly as I can by relaxing and facing my fear and not being freaked out by my fears while it's happening.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely, I guess that's why I wanted to bring this up first, because it's a lot easier to talk about and a lot harder to do. And yeah, the daily struggles kind of take you out of that desire sometimes. And I've found myself like in that sort of fear mindset a lot. And then, doing what I do with the podcast, I'm not going to have a conversation with someone if I'm not feeling at my best. So I started to realize like, oh, when I was feeling at my best and all those interviews were great and I had a really great feeling with those conversations, that there was something to that, there was something about that people enjoyed. So I almost feel hesitant now if I'm not feeling that way to have a podcast scheduled, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be at my best. And as I'm saying this, I'm starting to wonder maybe if I should reverse that and like, because really what it is the podcast is where a lot of that joy came from in the first place, and once I get going, I always find something to to talk about. So it's never a laborious thing, you know, compared to every other thing I've ever done to get paid. This is probably the least paying, but the most rewarding, you know, and I really enjoy it in that sense. So now that we're here, yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do about that, but there's part of me that feels like, in a mystical kind of sense, and maybe even a law of attraction kind of sense, that the place that I'm living right now is keeping me here for a certain amount of time. And what I've been really angsty about is like, where's that next place that I'm supposed to be? You know, because I have a friend that lives in Pennsylvania. I have a friend that lives in New Hampshire. I have a friend that lives in Vermont. These all seem like places that I might resonate with just due to the friendships I have there. But then again, I'm like, there's that fear of like, no, because as soon as you go to another state, you're disconnected from, you know, where you are right now. So I don't know what to do. You know, I'm definitely in like a place of crossroads, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's because you have something that it seems like you deeply want this change, right? You want a change. And so, I mean, what I would recommend is really get quiet with yourself and reflect, you know, spend some time on this. It doesn't have to be a rushed process where it's like, what do I really want? Okay. This sounds obvious, but in terms of where you live, this shouldn't be rational. Like law of attraction, we can almost always come back to like, what do I want? What do I want? And it should just come up. And I say take time with it, because what you want might change a little bit, right? But but there's something deeper and much harder to articulate that is not like a certain place in a certain state or a certain whatever. That all is not relevant to this. Like the law of attraction works best for us usually when we're really open with our deepest desires. And then you have to make that leap of faith where it's like you pay attention to that, of what you really want. And it's more like, again, it's not rational. That's why it scares us so much. It's more like, I want, you know, I have a certain sense of where I want to live, and it makes me feel so good. And why do I want to live there? You know, ask yourself why, like the feelings it elicits, like it helps you. This is like really standard law of attraction stuff, like Abraham Hicks. Like some of the best advice that they give is they say, what do you want? And why do you want it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to definitely spend some time on that, because there is so many like details that I can get caught up in, and it feels like none of that matters.
None of them matter. None of it matters at all. From this perspective, the details will fill in later. Okay. It's like, once you have become clear about what you want, stuff just happens. It just lines up better. Right. And that rational set part of you, you really shouldn't be there that much. If there's a decision you have to make, it should be clear, because it's coming from that same place of desire. You know, there might be 100 times at first more fearful thoughts about what you want and how you're going to get it and why it's going to happen than this pure feeling of what you want. But if you keep on accessing that on like a daily basis of like what you want, eventually it becomes clearer and clearer to you, and you're able to separate, recognize that this is your true desire. All these other thoughts and feelings coming in are just swaying you, and it's just fear that you're moving through as you go to your, in this case, literal destination of, you know, your new place to live.
Right. Right. And, you know, oftentimes this is something that happens to me. I've seen it happen to friends, close loved ones, where, you know, there are things that happen to us that we feel like are out of our control, or maybe that we regret doing something that we feel like we made a big mistake and it's holding us back now. You know, that's been getting in the way a lot with this. I don't want to say law of attraction, because like we just laid out, it's so much more complicated than just that. But with the situation I'm in, you know, it definitely feels like there are some things holding us back, you know, and I'm wondering, you know, where, you know, not specifically advice for me, but just for anybody who maybe hung up on the past. What's your advice for that?
Well, what's so wonderful about these principles is that like we could be discussing your specific situation, and it's going to, you know, it's going to be relevant, or as people like to say, resonate with so many people. You know, I can guarantee that. So we could actually get extremely specific. That's totally fine. And people are they're going to relate to your situation. What's difficult about the law of attraction is that you have to be open with yourself, and because you're open, you're open about your desires, right? But because you're open with your desires, you also become seemingly more aware of your flaws or things that you wish you did differently. So it's like this balance you're trying to strike, where you also really have to be willing to forgive your past quote unquote mistakes, you know, and if you want, you can examine them or you cannot examine them. I don't think it's necessary to, you know, go back and be like, why did I do this? Why did I do that? It's more important just to recognize, you know, I feel uncomfortable about this. Like what makes me feel bad about myself or about the situation that I'm going through, or what past behavior do I feel less than comfortable about? And, you know, you can write that down, or you can just do that in your mind, and you can acknowledge those feelings. And then you can basically talk to yourself, or, you know, jot down notes to yourself, forgiving yourself for these past actions, being like, I acknowledge what happened. I feel bad about it, but I'm going to quote unquote, let that go now, you know, and letting go is such a catchphrase. And really this is just, in many ways, what we're talking about is a standard therapeutic type of counseling. Like, but letting go, really what it means a lot of the time, at least in my opinion, is we acknowledge a situation that happened, or we acknowledge the feeling, that stressful feeling it gives us, and we let that feeling be there, and we are open with it. We don't push it away, and we say, you know what, I forgive this. I forgive myself for this happening, and I'm okay with this feeling being here, and I forgive every part of this, and it is what it is. And if we don't resist the feeling, if we lean into it, if we lean into the feeling enough, strangely, you could say the feeling starts to dissipate. It's because we kind of deny its presence. We deny the guilt we feel, that it lingers. But when we just openly acknowledge it, our relationship with it changes, right? And if all the stress and all the regret doesn't go away, at least we're able to treat it in a more mature way, where we don't let it like roll over us. You know what I mean? It loses a lot of its potency and its power when we just take it from a more, you know, distanced position, which we can do by just acknowledging it again. So we acknowledge our desires, what we want, and we also acknowledge where we feel like we've screwed up in the past. And we're okay with both those things, you know, at the same time. And again, this can be a daily type of practice. You don't have to do this every day, but this is just becoming aware of your feelings and like, basically like, you know, learning to be okay with who you are and what you want, and loving yourself enough to recognize that, you know what, it's all good, you know? And I can tell you one way to make it all good is what we talked about last time, is to get into that place where you're not thinking so rationally or overthinking, as I like to say, and come into the moment, you know. And there's a lot of different ways of doing that. We can talk about that again, or people can listen to the last episode, but anything that makes you feel present, whether it's meditation, doing a podcast, listening to music, taking a run, jumping up and down, you know, anything that makes you feel present, that reduces you overthinking, is going to help you manifest more of what you want in your life. The more present you are, the more at peace you truly are, you know, the easier it is for things to just happen for you positively.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, as you're saying all this, so much has come to mind over like, you know, and I know this isn't like, a therapy session that I booked, but I can't help but feel like I need to excuse myself for being so personal. But to your point, I think that's, being vulnerable, me being vulnerable could be something that really helps people if they're going through something very similar. So diving a little further into that, one thing that I've noticed, and it even really connects to why I named the podcast what I named it, this feeling of needing to not be right, but get my point across and be clear. Like, because there's this feeling of frustration that comes across when I'm trying to communicate a point and it's not being understood. And, that's manifested in so many different ways and has only put more fuel in the fire when it comes to like researching things like conspiracies, occult, and all that stuff. Because, and people who study this are familiar. Most people think it's crazy and nonsensical and not based in logic or reality. So it can be a little frustrating when you're learning these things and trying to share them with others. But, even just little things like a YouTube comment that I got today, somebody goes, "Oh, you rich kid, your parents put you in the Illuminati," or some shit like that. And it got me so mad because I'm like, dude, if you only knew like how not rich kid I was, like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, this guy's just like me because I, have that same sort of resentment towards people who are wealthier than me sometimes. So I'm like seeing, I can't hate this guy. He's just like me. But at the same time, he's throwing this thing at me that I'm like, it got me so incensed in the moment. But at the same time, I'm like, well, what can you do? Like Sam says that your haters will make you, it's an indication that you're reaching a lot of people when you start getting comments like that. But anything you can say, it doesn't really get down to the meat of it. That last part, what I just said about like, oh, your haters make you, like, it's not really, that doesn't really settle it for me. For me, I'm like, why am I having that reaction in the first place? Why is that bothering me so much in the first place that this person is saying that?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. Well, I guess first I should ask, what do you want from that interaction? Or like, what do you want?
Right. Yeah. And when you put it like that, I don't care what that person thinks. I mean, that's the first response. But then in the second response, like, well, I want that person, if they're going to listen to my show and comment, to feel like they know me. So I almost feel like I haven't really given people, or at least that one person, a good impression of me, if that's how they are taking, if that's what they're taking away from it. Because I am definitely not a rich kid, but at the same time, I'm like, how am I coming off that way? What gives this person that impression? It's a little confusing, but it's also like, I have that same resentment. So I'm like, is this a reflection of where I'm at? So it is a little complicated, but what do I want? I guess I just want people to understand me. I mean, again, back to that point, like when I'm trying to make a point to someone and they don't understand, it's frustrating, but I also realize, well, it's on me to be clearer or describe my point in the best way possible so that there's no, room for error, but it's still, that's not perfect. I mean, I don't know what's in someone else's head. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, I'm a crazy person. I know, Tim.
I can relate to you. I can really relate to that a lot. The first thing I would say, and there's no words what I'm going to say anyway, but the first thing I would say is most people, Mark, would say you're an extremely good communicator. Okay. Like a very high level communicator. There's no way that you would be able to have a show like you have and not have exceptional communication skills. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke up your ass. It's the fact of the matter. And because you're a very good communicator and because you're empathetic and, care for what people think about you, and especially when it comes to something you care deeply about, such as your show, when people can't relate to it, it's easy to react, to be sensitive about it, even if you're totally seemingly aware of it as you are. Now, I guess the next thing that we could talk about is you are aware of it. I mean, you just basically said, like, am I projecting, or like, is this a reflection of my own state that he's, reacts that way? And in a way it is, right? There's that part of you that like, just, it is a reflection, but it's also a reflection that you have a person like that in your life. Cause like Sam said, I mean, I completely agree. The more people who listen to you, who read you or whatever, who follow you, the more, to be blunt, fucking truly crazy people you're going to meet. And when I say truly crazy, maybe this person isn't, but when you say horseshit stuff like that, I mean, have some fucking common sense. That's really like what a lot of my law of attraction, sorry about like sweating, loopy. That's a lot of my law of attraction advice is. That's probably one of the few things that makes the law of attraction advice I give different than a lot of stuff that's out there. It's like, at the end of the day, you got to have some fucking common sense. And a lot of people, especially when you get onto social media, they don't. And one reason they don't is because they're not like you. They don't have a platform and a persona and a face that people see or a voice they hear. They're only commenting out, they're basically anonymous, except they have a name. So it's like this, it's this weird thing. But the point is, it's only a reflection of you in the sense that you let it be a reflection. It's a reflection in the sense that you recognize that part of yourself that could be kind of like that. And also it's a reflection of, you having fans, and inevitably, if you reach enough people, you're going to reach a small subset that are going to do bizarre things like that in terms of comments, But again, it's I don't know, I forget if we talked about this last time, but there's so many different ways to analyze these thoughts and feelings, and this trying to be perfect. Because, when I said I can relate to you, I'm the same way. Like I've always been a very good communicator, almost to a fault. I can say that because like when I was young, it was pretty easy by the time I was like a teenager just to communicate with people at like a high level, I would say. And so I almost always took it for granted. And in many parts of my life, I still do take it for granted. Like I don't like talking to people. Like it's one of these things where if I have to, I can easily speak to them, but like I don't like shooting the shit with people about stuff that doesn't interest me. And at the same time, I want everybody to feel good. Like if I'm at a large function or a party or something like that, especially when I was younger, I was always worried about how everybody else felt. I was like empathetic, and I just got to a point where I was like, I can't care about how other people are reacting as much because it is a reflection of me. And if I'm so, what are they thinking? Are they having a good time? Are they having a good time? Did I offend them? If I'm so focused on that, I'm missing the fucking point because I'm not feeling good myself, So the point is, I guess the general point I'm trying to make to you is that don't downplay your strengths, and embrace them and recognize that we're all human. And like, yeah, when you have a detractor, it's really good to be able to take a step back and not react right away and react the way you did, where it's like, did I do something wrong? And then, if you think about it more, like, no, I didn't do anything wrong, you can go about it a million different ways. Like, I don't do it that often anymore, but like the work of Byron Katie, do you know Byron Katie?
You mentioned her last time you were on the show. I looked into her a bit.
Yeah. I mean, she's an example of the reason I love her is not necessarily because actually of the work. I just think she's an amazing, like spiritual person, but the work is just 4 questions. It's just these kind of analytical questions that you ask yourself. And these stories we tell ourselves about, I should have communicated better. I should have done this differently. I shouldn't have behaved this badly. They're a good way of dissolving those stories because that's what it is. It's a thought. It's a story that we play into, as is the story. Oh, it's going to be hard to move. It's going to be difficult to find the right place. Do we have enough money? Another story you could be telling yourself is, we're moving, we're going to find a perfect place. Everything's going to work out. It's, what story feels better? Because we're always telling a story one way or the other. So it's like, again, if you are open to what you really want and don't beat the shit out of yourself up, you don't beat the shit out of yourself for wanting what you want, it comes to you easier more often. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it. And, it's well said. I think I tell myself that in different versions every day. And that could be part of it too, is the consistency and the structure. I find that when I'm living my life in a structured, consistent way, things tend to give way for that ease, that flow that you're talking about. And I'm the same way with the small talk and the chit chat. And, for the most part, a big part of my life, I was very antisocial. And it wasn't because I couldn't communicate. It was because, most people just didn't interest me, sadly. And that made me feel kind of jaded. It made me feel like, well, what am I doing wrong? And luckily with this podcast, like you said, I have people actually listen, and we're able to talk about really interesting topics that I kind of I was burdening my friends talking about it. They're like, all right, I get it. You law of attraction, but, I don't know if we talked about this the first time you're on the show, but there was an instance in my life where I manifested like a gold necklace. Did I tell you about that?
I don't think so. I don't remember if you did.
There was and I bring this up because the way it worked was so fascinating. And I wonder how you can add to this, because when I learned about this meditation manifestation technique, the emphasis was on forgetting, right? So their idea was you manifest whatever you want by imagining it falling into this bowl, and you visualize the bowl in your mind, like a physical bowl. Might even think it's like your skull, right? Your skull's kind of like a bowl. If you cut the top off, I wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, so you visualize this bowl even at the top of your spine, and whatever falls into it is what you're manifesting. And since it was so spur of the moment, I just visualized a coin, like a gold coins falling into this bowl, And at the time I was working a delivery job at a bakery, and we would also sell bread at the farmer's market. And sure enough, a week or so goes by, I had completely forgotten that I did this manifestation technique, and a customer at the farmer's market, leaves a gold necklace on the table of our farmer's market. And it's not just any gold necklace, it's a pendant, like a big golden pendant, has numbers on it. So it was really strange. And it had like a clunk when it hit the table. And I looked up, and the guy or woman was not standing there anymore. I'm like, who, and I grabbed it, put it in my pocket. I showed my coworker, and he was like, well, we have to, hold on to it in case they come back for it. I'm like, yeah, all right, fine. Okay, Jiminy Cricket.
You knew it was yours. You knew they weren't coming back.
Right. But we held on to it for 3 weeks, and nobody came back to claim it. And we ended up trading in, and it was $1,600, which was huge for me at that point in my life. I mean, that was like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks worth of work there. So, that was a big benefit. And I always thought it was so fascinating how the emphasis was on forgetting the technique, because that's exactly what I did. In the spur of the moment, visualized, and then moved on with my day. And it really didn't occur to me that the manifestation thing might have played into that until after the gold was kind of like, we had it for a week or two. I was like, oh, maybe that's why. I was going back and looking through what podcasts I had listened to, and this guy, Mike Centenia, had talked about that on the Higher Side Chats. But yeah, that idea of like forgetting, it's almost like confidence, like you have confidence in what you just manifest or visualized actually happening enough so that you forget about it.
This is a great illustration of some fundamental manifesting points. And they're really all manifesting points, in my opinion, are just these fundamental things. There's very few of them. And we can go over a couple right now. I mean, you just mentioned confidence, self-confidence that you're going to get what you want, or that Emile Coué, who's my favorite law of attraction teacher, is from like 100 years ago. He said, if you're confident that you're going to get something, if you're confident that you're going to be master of yourself, you will be master of yourself. The hard part is having that confidence, right? Now, with this technique, this story, what makes it interesting is that it sounds like you did this particular technique and you did it, I don't want to say wholeheartedly, but like you were into it, even if it was a very brief thing. And then you placed that in your mind, right? You had that visualization, that technique. And then the important thing is you just totally forgot about it. So there was no pressure about, are these gold coins going to show up? Like, is this going to actually show up? Because it was so pure, you could say the technique, whereas just, I thought it once, I had the intention of it, and then you literally just forgot about it. It happened very easily for you. What we usually do is like, I want a new place to live. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we lived here? 2 minutes later, oh, you know what? I don't think I can actually move there. 2 minutes later, I don't think the amount of resistance we have towards things we really want, or anything in general, if we're trying to manifest it, is what screws us up. So in other words, we don't actually have to always be saying or writing down like, I want to win $1 million. I want to win $1 million. If we held the intention, this is obviously just theory. I'm not speaking from experience because I've never manifested $1 million. But if you truly held the intention that you won $1 million and then forgot about ever doing it and just went about living your life, in all likelihood, you would somehow stumble upon $1 million if the feeling was there. But that's the problem is that's the kind of example that people like to give, but it's totally unrealistic because culturally there's going to be 100 things, if not 1,000 things each day that tell you did not just win $1 million, right? And that's why it's generally, in my opinion, more important to be in touch with what you really want and then cultivate a confidence about it inevitably happening where you just kind of dispel all these cultural influences and all these rational explanations for why it can't happen. Because there's no fucking rational explanation for how that, that gold chain or necklace or whatever should have popped up on your table. You fucking manifested it, and I hear stories like that all the time. And what interests me is the underlying psychology behind it, and confidence, and belief in it happening are very strong. The belief doesn't necessarily have to be that strong if it's a blank slate after. And with your technique, it was easily a blank slate. When it involves your health or moving or relationships or money, it's much harder to make it a blank slate. You know what I'm saying? And that's a lot of the inner work that we all do. But the principles are almost always the same. I mean, my podcast is basically just going over principles and different approaches to law of attraction principles that people don't hear as much as they hear about the secret type inspired stuff, which is too superficial to work for a lot of people. So.
Right. Yeah. And I love that, man. Thank you for putting that together. And I'm very excited to look into that. What principles stand out? I know you've mentioned a couple names so far, but are there any folks who you've been inspired by that you haven't mentioned yet that are worth noting? Neville Goddard comes to mind. I know you've mentioned him a couple times.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, I don't mean just to be plugging the podcast at all, but
no, it's all right.
I mean, I know that a lot of people, that's what people do on episodes of podcasts, but my point is the Law of Attraction Explored, that my new show, really, it just is about my favorite teachings. So in other words, my favorite teachers to talk about these principles that are timeless, So in other words, it's the same principles that they're talking about in The Secret or that you hear modern teachers talking about. But generally speaking, yeah, I'm talking about men and women who were teaching this stuff 50 or 100 years ago. Like I said, Emile Coué is wonderful. Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy. I forget if I mentioned him last time, but Joseph Murphy, he wrote The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, which is probably one of the more famous law of attraction books from last century.
Now, sorry, go finish that.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that's a great place for people to start, or if people want to get back into, maybe they listened to that book 5 years ago or whatever, but the power of your subconscious mind, and another book called Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Those two books they were both written in the 1960s. and they're both very practically based. They've got a great psychological element to them, and there's also some spiritual element, but it's not like woo-woo-y. It's just like a lot of stuff going on, you know? And yeah, I mean, also, you know, Neville, I love, and there's some other great teachers that I talk about in the show as well.
On the point of the power of your subconscious, you know, it kind of connects back to what we were just discussing about cultural influences. And I almost forgot this point, but I have a podcast I do with Michael Wan called Your Handbook for the Apocalypse. And a big thing that he's brought into my world and a lot of people's world who follow his work is this concept of baseline reality versus, and I don't know if he invented it or not, but he talks about it. And, you know, baseline reality versus this cultural context, this cultural overlay that we apply over everything. And really connecting to baseline reality can give you these like anchor points to feel more connected to your actual desires. And for me, tangentially looking into a different topic about architecture and why they design the imagery that they design in architecture, this idea of subconscious archetypes came up, right? This guy, C.V. Wood, who was an architect, he was also the head of a group called the Science Mind Foundation, I think, and they're big on Carl Jung's work, which, you know, is all about the subconscious. And I found it so interesting that these architects and designers are studying this type of thing, because what it indicates to me is that we're living in a world where symbols are being placed in certain spots. I mean, if you look at a courtroom or a courthouse, for example, like it's made to give you a sort of subconscious impression that then quite possibly is used against you. I mean, I'm, you know, I've had conversations about the federal government being a scam and all that stuff. So I think people are kind of on that side of things here in this podcast, but yeah, it's definitely, I mean, churches are the same, government buildings. There's like this subconscious imagery that I think can affect our ability to connect with our desires. You know, especially if you live in a city, you know, there's like a sort of sea of conscious activity that you're bombarded with. And that can be, you know, I think that's why meditation has become so popular in these urban areas, because you have to like cut through that sea of stimulus in order to connect with who you really are. Otherwise, you're just being like blown about in the wind.
I mean, I think it cuts deeper than even that, where I agree with you about edifice, you know, different architectural symbology, and someone like Neville, for instance, and even Joseph Murphy, a lot of the stuff that they're talking about is ancient. They're talking about biblical imagery and symbology, and it's very, very interesting. But back to link to our previous point about having confidence, culture is teaching you how to lack confidence, generally speaking. And most people are coming from a place of inferiority, which they might not even recognize. It's, in my opinion, mainly subconscious. So a lot of the work is just convincing yourself that you are worthy of what you want and of having confidence. Because, I mean, again, most people lack confidence, and the confidence that one has is often predicated by being a certain member of in a certain part of society. For instance, in school, it's like you're in a certain clique or a certain group, and we think, oh, you grow out of that. That's bullshit. You don't grow out of that. It's always the same. People are in different organizations. People have certain social circles they feel confident in. And it's like, well, how do you feel when you're alone? Like, how do you feel when you don't feel good? Like, where does your confidence go then? Okay. That's working with your subconscious. The city, in a way, can be more comforting for some people sometimes, I think, because it's like you actually get to see how fucked up things are for so many people. And there's almost like a comfort level there. It's like when there's a disaster or like a big problem, people kind of take care of each other a lot of the time. You hear stories like that all the time. If there's a power outage, people are, bringing old ladies, whatever, groceries or whatever the situation is. But this subconscious fear is, in a way governing how people operate. And it's in the more aware of it we become, the more we're able to dictate basically what happens in our lives, but a lot of it, again, it comes back to just facing fear, like to think that you're an exception. I'm not saying you do it all, but like we trick ourselves like, oh, I feel fear because I'm scared about where I'm going to move, or, I don't know how it's going to happen. That's the kind of stuff we're all dealing with on some level each day, most of us, and some of us let the fear rule our lives. Others of us, we learn to blow it off more and more and to make light of it and laugh at it and know that it's a passing wave and it's not going to last. And these are all just good practical life tools, is however you figure out how to do that. If you become more aware of your feelings and how you feel, you'll realize that even though other people are reacting a certain way, doesn't mean that I have to necessarily react that way.
Right on. Yeah. And that's, people who are here for the conspiracies. That's so important in this day and age, being aware as most of us are to the truth of what's really going on. It's, in my opinion, it's a safer bet to play your cards close to your chest. And this is how you do that, by being confident in yourself and not being so wrapped up in what other people think, because I've had those moments where I'm like, oh my God, the world's ending. And if only people knew this or that, and you end up just looking like, Chicken Little, like telling everybody the sky's falling. And really on an even deeper level, which I love to go there, I think there's an infinitude of possible realities that we're constantly at the crossroads of, and our choices really determine what reality we're in the next, our future, I think, is always changing. And it's, like you said, tools like this that can help us bring that reality in more in more resonance or in harmony with our desires.
Yeah. It's really like a lot of these concepts seem far out, but it's more like, how comfortable am I taking responsibility for the fact that like what I think and feel plays a large part in what happens in my life, and to take the responsibility of taking that on. That's not the kind of thing you're going to want to talk to a lot of people about who are not already familiar with these subjects, as we're saying. I don't talk to, family members or, my friends I grew up with about this stuff very often, because you do end up looking like a crazy person. And at the same time, having been into this stuff for long enough, I've seen the positive effects of believing it and taking responsibility have had in my life, and I think with a lot of these things, people go down a wormhole and they don't see the practical aspect of how they can improve their life and become basically a better person. I don't mean that in like a deep way, but just like, you treat people more nicely, you interact with people and are more helpful with other people. Applying law of attraction principles, spiritual principles, that should be a large part of it, right? It should just make stuff easier, and that involves, again, taking responsibility for how you feel. And it's like, oh, I feel like crap. I can blame that on my job situation or, the interaction I had with my boss yesterday. Or I can take responsibility and look at myself and be like, why did I react that way? And like the way you just were very open with your comment or how it affected you, and you didn't then, write a 3-paragraph rant back at the commenter or something like that. You said, how does this have to do with me? And what part of me is in that person, and that's, again, it's not as exotic as, having crystals and, full moon parties and stuff like that. But that's in large part what a lot of, manifesting principles comes down to. It's just being a grown up and taking responsibility and having common sense.
Yeah. And I love having these conversations because, again, back to the commenter, I'd hate for people to think that I, got handed this podcast, like this is an amalgamation of a lot of work, and making the decision to drop out of community college, which wasn't easy, and saying to myself, I have what it takes to find a career for myself, and I'm not going to use this institution. I'm not going to use my parents' advice. I'm not going to use my friends' advice. I'm just going to follow my intuition and my instincts. And it didn't always lead me down the, yellow brick road to Oz. It's led me down many different trails and little turns and failures that have opened up opportunities like this one. And, I think that's why the law of attraction, synchronicity will always be topics on my show and always be sort of a theme, because I owe what I'm doing now to that sense of responsibility. And I haven't always had that common sense part that you're talking about, which is, again, why I appreciate you having you back on a second time, Tim, because I resonate with it, man. I think it might just be where we're from. I know you're an East Coast guy like me, but there's this certain sense of work ethic. And I don't mean to, I say that carefully because I don't want to, give people the impression that just because you're not from New England, you don't have work ethic. But there's this sort of sense of hard work and the winter, anywhere that has a winter climate.
Flintiness. There's a lot of flintiness. Dude. I don't even know exactly what that word means, but that's the right word. Yeah. Well, no, there's Northeast sensibility for sure.
Yeah. And again, I only say that because I feel like we sort of have that similar sense. And yeah, it's rare to find that when you're talking about the law of attraction, because more often than not, as much as I have gained from people who talk about this and their advice or their wisdom, there is this sort of superficial kind of feeling that looms over the whole field.
Oh yeah.
It's very
that's not an exaggeration. And what's too bad is that this would be if we'd have to do another episode for this, but what's too bad is there's a lot of good teachings and teachers now, law of attraction coaches and stuff like that, who actually have some really interesting, good stuff, can give some really good advice, but it's clouded with all this superficial stuff that frankly doesn't need to be there. While a lot of the older teachings they told it to you straight. I mean, and another interesting thing, we'll end with this, I guess, is that a lot of the law of attraction teachers that I talk about, like a big law of attraction center was New York. It was a Northeast thing, more than it was like a West Coast thing. Not that it really matters. This geographic stuff doesn't matter that much, but sensibility wise, it's very different being in New York City, talking about this stuff, seeing all the people on the street, as opposed to being, on a luminous beach somewhere, in California or whatever. It's just a different sensibility, but it doesn't matter what your sensibility is. It just matters about getting it to work for you in whatever way it does. That's it. And I also will say that the more responsibility you take, generally speaking, long-term, the better it gets, the better you feel. That's what I found. So I'll leave you with that note of encouragement in regards to, geez, I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I knew this stuff when I was younger, because I would have taken more responsibility. And the more responsibility I've taken, the more I've appreciated my life. Just as that simple. It's not even profound. It's just I just feel better because of it,
Right on. Yeah. And, I hear that a lot. So I'm glad that you see a little bit of yourself in me, or a little bit of the law of attraction in me. It helps me realize I'm not on the wrong track. I just looked up flinty because I was a little baffled by that word. I never heard it before, at least in this context. And it says unyielding or stern, which is very apt for people in at least Connecticut and Massachusetts, I'll say.
Oh yeah, and mean. Yeah, I mean, there's this great, it's basically considered a law of attraction book called Acres and Diamonds by Russell Conwell. He wrote it in the 1870s or 80s. He's the guy who founded Temple University, but he was from Massachusetts. Anyway, he's making jokes, and in that book, you feel like it could have been from the 1980s, because that same sensibility, I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, no, I ought to check that out.
Yeah, Acres and Diamonds. It's a good one for sure.
Cool. Well, Tim, before we go, man, tell the listeners where they can find your new podcast, Law of Attraction Explored, and of course, the books
Yeah, I mean, Law of Attraction Explorer. You can find it on your whatever podcast, whatever podcast system you like to use. There's, this thing called Apple. You might have heard of it. It's probably on Apple. Just kidding. It's definitely on Apple. And my books, likewise, they're definitely on Amazon. Company you might have heard of before. Yeah, you can go to radicalcounselor.com for more information about me. If you want to send me an email, info@radicalcounselor.com. Love to hear from people who have questions about this. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for a radical counseling session. I definitely want to get you back on the show for more conversations about anything. I mean, anytime, man. And I'd love to be on your show if you ever have guests. So keep me in mind.
We'll see if we ever go the guest pathway. But yeah, no, Mark, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm really glad that you were open to being open today, because I know you'll get a lot of comments of people probably saying, how helpful that was, your openness. And you also probably get some psychotic comment from somebody, but recognize that as a good thing.
All are welcome.
All are welcome. And the good far outweighs the bad. So yeah,
exactly.
Thanks again, man.
Yeah, brother. I'll let you go. Tim, thank you so much. And thanks,
Mark.
Listeners. Have a great moment wherever you are in the now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. Very interesting conversation with Tim Grimes, kind of personal. We got into some things that have been feeling like maybe a little bit of a slump, not in the podcast, but in my personal life. I think the podcast is going strong. We just hit 44,000 downloads in the month of December. That's the biggest month we've ever done in terms of download numbers. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And yeah, Tim is a really cool dude. He's down to earth. And as you heard, he talks about the law of attraction in a way that makes sense to me. And if you're listening to the show, it probably makes sense to you as well. And like I said, we got a little personal there, talking about some things that have been holding me back, namely finding a new place to live. Not just location, not just place, but like the ley line energy, that kind of energy. I'm starting to realize this ley line energy might not be as all fun and games as I might have thought at first. Reading Walter Bosley's book, Empire of the Wheel, and it turns out these ley lines are a little more sinister than I had first imagined. So I'm just going to put that out there. Maybe going to find a place to live that's adjacent to a ley line. Not on a ley line, but adjacent to a ley line. We'll see, though. I mean, Ross Ben and Michael Wan live on the 40th parallel, and seems to be working out pretty good for them. So maybe I'll find a place on the 40th. I don't know, but moving to a different state is definitely on the table, so to speak. It's an option that's been weighing heavily. Obviously, Sam Tripoli talks about moving out of LA and naturally working for the show. I think that would be a really smart move for me, is to move where he ends up settling in. So we'll see what happens there. I think I might be holding back for that reason, but don't let Sam know. Sam is free to make that choice. And yeah, he did kind of allude to it, though, last time I saw him in person, that if he ever did have like a Joe Rogan compound, I'd be living on it. So fingers crossed that's in the pipeline maybe for 2022. And that's also what I wanted to talk about a little bit, given that this episode will be the first episode coming out in 2022, starting the year off right with some good vibes. Tim Grimes, and be sure to check out his new podcast. It will be up on altmediaunited.com within the time between recording and publishing this episode. So go check that out. The links are certainly in the description. We have some new spirit animal names to give out. I gotta get the cards ready and all that good stuff, but shout out to our 3 newest patrons. Thank you for joining. We have a new member of the Best Friend Book Club, someone who has hit me up with some pretty cool information here and there. Their name is Real Twirl. It's not spelled that way, but that's how I'm going to read it. And yeah, they're pretty freaking cool. Thank you for joining the Best Friend Book Club. And we have some patrons that have been supporting long enough to get some merch now. I don't know how that works, but that's really cool. And you're in luck. If you want merch, you want to support the show, but you're not on Patreon, that's fine. You could support the show by getting some merch. We got a Teespring now, and I've been making t-shirt designs. We've got our classic logo that you know and love. You can get it on a mug. You can get it on a t-shirt. You can get it on a poster. If you love the show so much you want to put a My Family Thinks I'm Crazy poster in your room, that would be sweet. I appreciate that. Anybody who buys some merch, send us a picture of yourself with the merch, and we'll put you up on the Instagram, give you a shout out. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Telegram to stay up to date with the show. Not only do we post when the newest episode comes out, but I also post live streams and other interesting things. You know, we're always doing something crazy over here. We've got our Telegram chat live and bumping every day. A lot of cool folks in the Telegram. So be sure to join in, because all of these episodes go live on Telegram. We go live on Rockfin. And the best place to get up to date with that is naturally Telegram or Twitter. That's the easiest, because when I'm on Rockfin, there's this little button that says, oh, share to Twitter. So I just click that. Pretty simple. So follow us on Twitter, MFTIC podcast, and that is another way to stay up to date with the newest episodes of this show as we move on into 2022. I was listening to some of the Higher Side Chat's older episodes after Greg gave my voicemail shout out a play on his joint sessions for the Plus members only. That was really cool. Thank you, Greg. And I went out and I listened to some of his older episodes just to put it in context, because, I mean, his show's amazing now, very well polished, but it's cool to see where he started. And I got to be honest, I think we're in kind of a similar trajectory. If you go back and you look at where he was at around episode 120 and where we're at now, yeah, we're in a similar place. And I think that's pretty cool. And I guess I should let the cat out of the bag, but I think we're going to move towards the Plus model here, folks, and do something that the Grimerica show recently did with their Outlawed show, something that Greg did successfully many years ago, and a lot of podcasts. I mean, Mysterious Universe does it. A lot of podcasts. Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast even does it. So if you want the full show, get on the Patreon now, because everyone who's in the Patreon will be grandfathered in to our new membership platform at a low fee, but I'm hoping to create it so that it's all within the website, myfamilythinksimcrazy.com. We still have a few months out before that'll be ready, maybe a few weeks, months, we'll see where it goes. But the point being, we're going to move towards this model of value for value. I think that's the best way to go. There will still be whole free shows that I will do. I promise not everything is going to get cut in half, but I think that's the way to go. If people want the whole show, you pay, we'll see, maybe somewhere between $5 and $8 a month, and you get the whole show. And I think that's the way it's got to work, because this is a value for value podcast. I do not want to put dynamic ads on the show. I don't like dynamic ads. I think they're annoying when you're listening to a show and it gets broken up with ads. That's why I listen to Tinfoil Hat as a supporter through Rockfin. I will admit that it's easier to listen on an app, but you know, that's where Tripoli's at. There's a lot of other podcasts that I listen to that have dynamic ads, and I don't mind them. It's not the worst, but I just don't think it'd be the right fit for this show. So we're not going to go that. We do have sponsors. We will still shout out our sponsors in the intros and outros, but there will come a day when that will be phased out as well, because as support grows for the show, I won't need just one person to give me a large sum of money for the show per month. It'd be cooler if everybody who listens to the show chipped in $3, $4, $5 a month and really crowdsourced this show. That's kind of how I see it. You know, I didn't want a show like Tinfoil Hat to disappear. I didn't want a show like the Higher Side Chats to disappear. So when I first found them and started listening as much as I did, I naturally supported as fast as I could, even though I had, barely any money in my checking account, and I barely had any money. I still have no money in my savings account. But I felt like this was an investment in myself, supporting these shows, the Grimerica show, those conspiracy guys, Tinfoil Hat, the Higher Side Chats. Those are probably the first 4 podcasts I ever supported financially. And, I think this podcast itself demonstrates what kind of karmic act that is and how that can propel you into a whole nother reality like it did for me. Now, I was sort of geared towards this stuff. I've been talking about these subjects with people in person for so long that it's a relief to be able to talk about this stuff on the podcast. But I think that besides me being, prepared to take advantage of this opportunity, being grateful and showing gratitude in that way towards those 4 or 5 shows that I first fell in love with and fell in love with the information they were talking about, I think that was pivotal to where I'm at now. So anyways, I'll get off the soapbox and just say, if you get on the live stream and you like what you're hearing, if you get on the show, you like what you're hearing, go over to the Patreon. We got a lot more bonus content there. And what's cool about it is we're growing a little community, and it's going to be a big community soon. So get in now to be grandfathered into the first edition of supporters, I guess. I don't know. We'll have to come up with a cool name. But speaking of cool names, we have 2 new cool people who have signed up to support this show, and we're going to give them spirit animal names. Now, I loaded the deck the same way I do every time. I'm just going to preface this, okay? The deck is shuffled. There's no funny business going on here, okay? I drew the cards, and here we go. We've got, for our newest patron, Thomas. Let me get your name here so we don't confuse the other Thomases, because there are a couple people named Thomas. Thomas R., shout out to you. I recognize you. We've spoken on Instagram. You are the Storytelling Lion. Wow. Love that name. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. And finally, from hailing from the Great North, a place that I also share ancestry. For those who don't know, my grandparents immigrated to Connecticut from Canada, so I'm a little bit Canadian. Shout out to all of our Canadian friends, Graham and Darren on the Grimerica show. Shout out to them. Graham's been on the show twice, Darren once. Both of them have been on together once. So here we go. Our friend, I'm going to pronounce it as either Rail or Real, but I guarantee there's no one else with that name here. So Real W, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining the Best Friend Book Club. We will be sending you a book very soon because you just paid us. It's the end of the month. You signed up just in time, and we will be shipping you a book. And as soon as I get a chance, and your spirit animal name, ooh, this is cool. And by the way, Thomas, you got the Storyteller card, which represents expansion. So you could have been the Expanding Lion, but I think Storytelling Lion sounds cooler. And back to Real or Rail, you are the Phoenix, and you got the Stone People card, which is symbolic of records and a knowing revealed. So we'll call you the Stone Phoenix. shout out to you, and thank you for your support. Thank you for being here, folks. The first episode of 2022 here on the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast, and it's episode 122. Look at that. Isn't that funny? Here we are with Tim Grimes, another interesting conversation. If you haven't listened to our conversation, episode 51 of the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast, go back and listen to that first conversation I had with my friend Tim here. He's a really interesting guy, down to earth, not your typical law of attraction mentor. He's got a very similar approach that I think I used to have when I first got into this, and he helped me sort of recalibrate in the summer, and that was my hope here with this episode, was to recalibrate again, and maybe you can recalibrate with us. So not much to say for this episode. A lot is going on. Got a bunch of cool books coming in the mail, as I talked about in the last extended outro. I was planning on calling up my friend Alex, but the call dropped, and I think his phone died because I tried calling him back and it did not ring. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get my buddy Alex in here for the extended outro. He was on a previous episode we did with Andreas Zertis, the second time we had Andreas on, because Alex and I met as fellow delivery guys, and when I was showing him the route, he was telling me all about Max Egan and Sartaria. So naturally, we've been friends ever since. So hopefully we'll get him on the show soon, if not for this episode. But I'm just chilling here. It's the first day of 2022, 1/1/2022. Interesting numerology. I'm sure folks in the Telegram can expand on that. Seems to be a theme. Whenever I look in the Telegram, there's always somebody decoding something. So shout out to all our friends who have joined the Telegram recently. The Rhythmic Dragon has made it to the Telegram. Welcome, brother. And we have t-shirts now, folks. That's right. I've been designing t-shirts. They are on the Teespring. We have merch. We have all kinds of great stuff. So go there and check that out as soon as you need to. And I think that's right now, because who doesn't want some My Family Thinks I'm Crazy gear? Tell the whole world that your family thinks you're crazy with one of our custom-made shirts. And I'm going to announce here right now, we have 3 handmade printed shirts that Tara and I printed ourselves, and we're going to raffle them off. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be a really cool raffle, and it's going to happen over the next couple episodes. We'll be talking about this raffle. So get in on it now. I think by January 15th, we'll come to get the winner of the raffle, and there will be 3 t-shirts for the 3 raffle winners. So I don't know how we're going to conduct it yet, but I think what it's going to be is through the Patreon. So everybody who's above the $5 tier by January 15th is basically in the runnings for the raffle to receive a custom t-shirt made by us truly. Very interesting. There's a lot of folks that are above $5. Some of you are below $5. Unfortunately, you will not be in the runnings, but if you up your patronship in the next 14 days, that'll put you in the running. So now some of you are in other countries. That does not disqualify you. Don't worry. I will do my best to send it to you regardless. I'm sure a t-shirt can go across borders. And I also have some really cool stickers that'll go with that as well. And if you like jewelry, we've been making some really cool artwork, and it's now available on the website. I have been somewhat of a wire wrapper for the past 4 or 5 years. So I think I make some pretty unique, weird wraps. And if you like the vibe of the show, maybe you like the vibe of the crystals, go check those out and buy it. Take it home, put it around your neck, and expand your aura, expand the synchronicities in your life. That's what they did for me, and I have a bunch of them, so I'm willing to give them away. They take some time to make, a lot of hours. So they are not cheap. They're definitely not $20, $30, but I think they're pretty modestly priced for what you can find of similar quality. And hey, they're made by me, yours truly. So go over to our website, myfamilythinksimcrazy.com. Check out the menu. You'll see the shop page. Go over to the shop and check it out. We have a Ko-fi.com/myfamilythinksimcrazy, and that's the website through which we're selling all of our artwork. And like I said, we got a Teespring as well, which is now in the episode description. So go check that out and show the podcast some love with merch, because that helps in multiple ways. Not only do you get the word out about the show in a really cool, subtle way, but you literally pay me, which I need to do because that's the only way we can get paid with this awesome podcast. Through merch, value for value support, or ads. And I've made it pretty clear that we're not going to take that route and get ads. So here we are moving into 2022. Thank you for being here, folks. And as promised, we have my friend Alex Stein here on the podcast to close this episode out and kick 2022 off. Again, this is being recorded on January 1st, 2022. The conversation with Tim happened a week or so ago. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this conversation with Alex Stein. Gets a little racy, gets a little explicit, as it usually does with Alex. But so either way, enjoy.
I'm keep doing the conspiracy castle, but I'm 233 pounds. And I'm doing my New Year's resolution. I'm exercising, so I'm gonna do like a vlog every other day. My progress.
Did you do this to yourself on purpose? Because I don't know if you haven't factored this part in, but you've been challenging yourself to all of these fast food things, eating Domino's in a Jack in the Box.
Yeah,
Let's see what else.
That's what I'm saying. I kind of did that on purpose so that people can see me dieting. I can be like, oh, fuck, just for the juxtaposition. So it's a little more dry.
So now you need to make, like, this needs to be full tilt WWE. Like, we need to know behind the scenes. You gotta have like a candid camera like set up in your house, and just like, I don't know. I think it'd be funny if you did like a spoof on Biggest Loser or something. Like you film like your moment where you're like, I'm too heavy. I have to change this.
That's exactly what I'm doing, dude. I took all these fat pictures of me today. No, dude, I'm going to wait till tomorrow to edit the video so I have like a full 24 hours, for the video. So that's why it'll be like every other day. I could do it every day, but like Rich Piana, these guys, they would do it like weekly, but because I want to focus and say, every other day the video will come out and have my weight and so it'll be like a full 24 hours in between,
Yeah. You should even do a full 12 hours in between and just weigh yourself twice a day.
That's what I was thinking. Like I was weighing myself. I'm about to weigh myself because I weighed myself this morning, and then I went and exercised today, and I ate. All I had was the broccoli, literally, for dinner. And I'm gonna start. I'm fasting. I'm gonna do the intermittent fasting a bunch. Where I'm gonna withhold, hours, just a long distance of not eating, during the day. But I was thinking, should I weigh myself tonight, or should I just wait till the morning? Because it'll probably be more drastic. Like, I might not see that big a change tonight.
Right. Well, what are you trying to achieve here?
I should be religious about weighing myself, but like almost weighing yourself twice a day kind of fucks you up because like you drink water or something. It's almost like you should weigh yourself at the same time every day. But I guess I could just weigh myself at the same 2 times every day and solve that problem. You know what I mean? Because your water weight can kind of fluctuate with like water and shit.
Well, I think it can't hurt to have more data. The data might not tell you what you're looking for, but that's the point of the data.
Yeah, and my app will save it. I have an app. Shit, I gotta get that app going. Okay. Well, fuck, dude. I mean, yeah, I'm just for this month, I'm gonna start doing that. We gotta set up some interviews. We gotta get some fools, some fucked up people to talk to.
All right, bro. That's partly why I called. I also wanted to ask you to talk to me on my podcast about 2022, but I already know your answer.
What, tonight? I don't want to do it. I'm just fuck. You want to go tonight?
No,
I mean,
like right here, right now for 15 minutes.
Oh, I can do it right now while we're here on the phone, but only because I'm saying we could go live on my channel, but I'm compressing a bunch of shit on my computer, so it still says it has an hour and 40 minutes before it's done, before I can even use my computer.
No worries.
So what, do you want... We can do it. I got 15 minutes if you want to fucking talk about this bullshit ass right now.
Yeah, let's talk about this bullshit ass right now. I want to talk about podcasting in 2022. I want to tell you what my goals are, and I want to hear your podcasting New Year's resolutions for 2022. And you're more of a YouTuber, content creator, but YouTube doesn't take kindly to your type. So do you have any new plans, anything people don't expect from the conspiracy castle? Obviously the fitness castle, but what else?
Yeah, I mean, the fitness castle for the month of January is going to be just a different stay. You know, like I said, that was a change of pace because I've purposely been eating all those degenerate meals. Like, so people will just think, oh my God, this guy's the worst human being. He's an actual human pig. He just eats slop, which I do, which is not incorrect. But I also want to be able to show my self-discipline because I do have self-discipline.
I like how you called it slop because that's what I used to say when I realized how bad fast food was. I used to tell my friends when they would be like, oh, let's go to McDonald's. I'd be like, nah, I'm not going to the feeding trough. I don't need any slop.
I mean, it literally slop because all you got to do is look how they make it. I mean, just how they put the sauce on the bun. They slop the meat on it. I mean, it's slop. I mean, look at the grill. All you got to do is go watch videos of Popeye's kitchens, like on TikTok, of the kids cleaning the grills and stuff. It's disgusting. I mean, taking that chicken out of the deep fryer and it's just all grease and slop. I mean, and it's done on purpose so they can serve it in a fast functioning way where they can give it to as many people as fast as possible with no wait time so people can stuff it in their face so that they don't leave the place and still have room for dessert. I mean, it's like sad how fast they want to, not only do they want to get you this shitty food, but they want to like stick it in your body before you can even taste what it tastes like.
Right. They want you to, and on top of it, they put all kinds of things inside of it that make you hungrier, so you come back for seconds.
Dude, it's the genetically modified organisms are inside of all the meat that they definitely use. Like, they know the umami MSG flavors that can, you know, they do this all in a laboratory, and then the meat is processed where it has a seasoning on it that will, like, literally make you crave it. I mean, it'll send signals to your brain that make it where it's addicting, where you want to go back there. That's the problem, is once you get in that fast food loop, which I've been in, and I can get myself out of because I do know it's like crap, but like the thing is, the more you eat fast food, the more you want fast food. The less you eat fast food, the less you want it. Like somebody that like eats at McDonald's like once a year or something, they don't ever care. Like they eat it because they're like stuck on a road trip or whatever. The person that eats it like casually, you start craving it because it builds those receptors in your brain that are used to like going off when it eats that genetically modified MSG.
It's not just the big brands either. I got into eating Jake's Wayback Burger, which I don't know if you guys have that out your way, but it's basically like, you know, it's a higher tier fast food restaurant. It's not, you know, a sit down restaurant.
I know. But I know what you mean. It's kind of high class Wayback Burgers. I'm looking at it right now. So it's, I mean, it's like a Hot Dottie or something. Yeah, and it's an upgraded fast.
I used to crave that, but I realized why I was craving it wasn't just because of the food. It was because of the simplicity of ordering it. Like I just press a few buttons on my phone, drive there, and walk in and say like, "Hey, I ordered," and then they hand me my bag and I leave. Like that. That was the appeal because last year it got so crazy. I probably talked about this with you before, but 2022, no more. I'm eating healthy. Luckily, I'm in a relationship, and my girlfriend is in line with what I like to eat somewhat. She's way more sensible than I am. I still eat junk food, but that's one of the good things that's rubbing off, I guess, is I'm eating healthier more and more, and I want to keep that going. So I'm glad that you are embarking on this fitness journey. I just feel like I don't want to see you do like the Biggest Loser stuff because I feel like that doesn't work. That just makes people fatter. Like all that like high intensity weight loss stuff, like that's not good.
Well, I am. Yeah, because you always gain it back, but that means like I gained some weight back. It's just naturally what happens. But I am gonna kind of do that because I'm the main source of weight loss for me, or the main tactic I like to use, is intermittent fasting. And that doesn't mean you don't eat. It just means that you have to have windows as long as possible in between meals, because once you do that, it forces your body to use stored fat as energy.
Right.
Because let's say you eat something and then you don't eat anything for 14 hours or 16 hours. And that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm trying to go for 16 hours I will not eat. And then there's an 8-hour window where I'll eat, which sounds extreme, but it's really not. It's really not that hard if you sleep 12 hours a day. And so basically, but to start off with, I'm going to be even a little more intense. I'm starting off with today I'm doing like kind of a 4-hour window and I'm not eating for 20, but I'm just being a little extreme to kind of kickstart my body, because my body's still addicted to sugar and stuff. So for the first week of even my diet, because I've done all these crash diets so much, I'm not going to really feel good from the withdrawal from the sugars and all the other food that I've been used to.
Right.
So you have to fast in order to withdraw. So your body, what it can do is when you withhold yourself from food, your body's able to work on itself to excrete toxins. Right. So if you actually fast, like totally, like let's say I do a 72-hour fast, that's what I'm hoping I'm going to get to. I just don't want to start off with that. I got to kind of start off with get my body kind of used to withholding food, because now I've been eating emotionally whenever I want, whenever I did, and that's not how I normally am. I've been overboard about it, but now I'm going to go overboard the other way. It's because when you withdraw from the food and your body's not constantly using its physical resources to digest food, it can take time off, and then your central nervous system can work on other stuff. And that's why fasting is so important. It's like if you have a cut on your hand and you fast, the cut will actually heal faster, because your body's not working and doing processes with digestion, so it can focus on the healing and recovering aspect. That's why they say fasting is good actually for recovery from exercise.
Right. And you're an athletic person. You played sports your whole life, so I really don't see you not losing this weight. It's not like you're somebody who's been eating that way for a while. It's just kind of a recent trend. And I don't blame you. Like I said, it's a lot more convenient with the world we're living in. Maybe not so much in Texas. Things seem a little different down there. But yeah, for me, the fast food route was like a nice way to avoid all the COVID BS for a little while.
Dude, and I'm still avoid it with the COVID BS, because you're saying I always order like that, even in normal restaurants. It's basically I order takeout. I mean,
right.
Very rarely do I even go out to dinner. Like this other girl's bugging me to go out to dinner. I was joking with her. I was like, hey, I'll go out. She was like, I want to go out to dinner. I was like, all right, we can go to Olive Garden. This girl and this is a girl I've gone on a couple of dates with, so I know her. We've have a little bit of a history. She's like trying to play hard to get, and she's like, no, I don't want to, I don't want to go there. That's below me. Like, maybe we could get it to go. Like, no, I want
as if that's better.
Kind of. She's like, I don't even want to sit in there. Like, he's all good like that. And I was like, well, then I won't even take you at all. I was like, and I never want to go to restaurants. I was like, I just wanted to go, someone to go to this restaurant with you. And now, ever since I heard her, she's been like sending me all these messages like, I'll go to Olive Garden with you. It's just funny. What I'm saying is I don't even like eating at restaurants. It's crazy. I used to love going to dining, and now I can't even fucking go to Olive Garden anymore. It's sad. Not that Olive Garden's even good. I kind of like that it's bad, that it's unlimited breadsticks. I'm just saying, like, the reason why Olive Garden, too, I don't know why I'm on an Olive Garden rant, it's nice to go. People make fun of chain restaurants, but I like chain restaurants because you don't feel uppity. You don't feel uptight if you're in basketball shorts or shoes. It's like, that is really what America is. America is one sterile chain restaurant that we just live in, and so you're just comfortable with that. It doesn't mean it's good,
right?
But it doesn't mean it's bad either.
That's how I feel about gas stations. I'm very comfortable in them. I don't agree, but I've been forced into this due to circumstances in this society that gas stations are a part of my daily and weekly life.
Dude, I'm at gas stations all the time, but what do you mean in gas stations at what context? Like using the restrooms or just going into them in general?
Oh, dude, I just going into new ones. Like every time.
Oh, yeah, I love convenience stores. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
I like getting the lay of the land. Like I make friends at gas stations. Like my girlfriend probably thinks I'm crazy when I go to the Gulf gas station near my house, because I'm always coming out laughing. She says that she doesn't think I'm crazy. Okay, never mind. But
that's like a bodega gas station. Yeah, no, I love gas stations. I love places where you feel comfortable. You don't have to feel like like I don't like highfalutin places, and I can fake being like high class just like anybody else. Not that, well, I do have to fake it because I'm not really high class. But I'm saying, like, I just don't like uppity, stuck-up places. Those are my least favorite. Elitist type shit is my least favorite crap on earth.
Right. Well, that's why I despise New Haven so much, because that's all it is. And then, you know, not trying to be discriminatory here, but then everything else is like an ethnic food, which is like, you know, it's fine, but I don't want to eat ramen. Like, I'm not like a ramen fan, you know? You know what I'm saying?
But what ethnicity are you talking about? Like North African, Asian?
No, well,
I mean,
there's a lot of different ones, but mostly it's like, it seems like over the past 5 years, there's way more ramen and Asian type foods ever. And I don't know what it is. I'm just not a fan of noodles, so I tend to avoid those places.
I'm a noodle freak. Like, that's what I have to hold on my diet.
I like sushi though. I do like sushi. I'll say that, but I'm not a big fish person either. So when I get
but you
sushi,
don't like pad thai? I'm just surprised you don't like drunken noodles or flat.
they don't have a lot.
anything?
I don't think they have a single Thai food restaurant in New Haven. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's in like in another neighborhood, but at least downtown, where all the highfalutin and everything in between is, yeah. But you know, it's a university town, so it's highfalutin. So.
And they have that annoying hamburger place. What's it called again?
But I guess my point. Oh, Jake's Way Back. That's not in New Haven, though.
No, not Jake. The oldest place, Hamburger Harry's, or what is it?
Oh, the Hamburger Hut. I don't know what it's called. Oh, Louis'
the
Lunch.
one where they don't. Yeah, Louis' Lunch, where there's no ketchup in the burger. It looks like they're not even cooked.
Right, and it looks like you're in like a confessional when you're in there. Like, it looks like a priest is gonna come out and like hear your sins. Like, it's a very weird restaurant.
Can you imagine working in there like for years on end? I've just seen it. I know what you mean. Like, it's like dark wood paneling. It looks like hell in the inside. It doesn't look like the same as Olive Garden. I'll tell you that much.
No, Olive Garden. But you know, I don't remember if it was you or somebody else that was pointing this out to me, but how all the new restaurants, or not new, all the new renovations that they're doing on these like fast food chains, have you noticed they're all going to like this slate gray looking design? And it's
the minimalist. It's funny you say that, because I noticed that even Taco Bell, they used to be so creative and so cool. Wendy's used to have like cartoons, and the Taco Bell, you'd go in and it looked like the Nickelodeon studios. And now, dude, a McDonald's looks like a freaking like a Costco.
Looks like a doctor's office.
Exactly. I mean, it's just so sterile. I don't even know. It just looks terrible. And all of them are starting to get like that. Like this Popeyes, I just drove by, like this brand new Popeyes they built. It's just like orange and white, and you can tell it like they're trying to look so futuristic, but it just looks weird. Right. I don't even know how to explain it. It just, I mean, I'm sure I'll get used to it, like everything new, you know, but it just doesn't look like, it almost doesn't even look welcoming. It looks like the New World Order, like the globalists, like idiocracy. Like,
they're homogenizing everything.
Maybe it's just they're just trying to make it blend in, or I mean, I guess I don't know what they're trying to make it look upscale. I don't know. I don't know why the fast foods have gotten this minimalistic gray shit, but that's the future. That's like the Soylent Green. That's how like and that's honestly what I believe, though. I don't understand this, and this is why I'm never going to be like some conservative. We should have subsidized restaurants in the United States. I don't understand why we don't have a restaurant where people could eat at for free, you know, and I mean, and people could tip or whatever. Like, I just don't understand. I mean, I feel like that would solve so many hunger and food waste issues if we had actual restaurants that people could eat at for free. Like, if you subsidize Subway and literally anybody could walk in there. I mean, I don't know how you'd figure out where you get one limit, you know, where a person couldn't take advantage of it. But, dude, you know there's so much food waste in the United States. We could have some sort of governmental restaurant, and it might suck, but at least families wouldn't go hungry when they want to eat. Right.
Well, people might be listening and being like, well, that's called a food shelter, or what do they call it? Soup kitchen.
That's exactly what it is. But I'm saying we should just we bail out these companies anyway.
Well, you know, we spend all this money on freaking tanks too, and all this weaponry. Yeah, some of that money can be diverted into feeding the homeless for sure.
But I'm saying it could be like a government kitchen, like a soup kitchen, or they could literally subsidize Subway. They could buy one of these fast food chains. And you go eat for free at McDonald's. Like, look, McDonald's. I mean, the average cost is $10 per day or whatever. I mean, I hate for all the cows, but we should be able to feed people, is what I'm saying. People should be able to go anywhere in the world. This is my opinion. I know this is probably far out there. And if they should be able to walk into a place if they're hungry and get something to eat, like that is one of the biggest things.
Well, I think the impression that we live in a world that's like where there's scarcity is, it's just not true. Like in other countries, there's an abundance of food because they're living mostly agriculturally. Obviously, whenever you go into a city, an urban area, that changes. But I think if we got back to a more pastoral, agricultural way of living, that would definitely not be, or at least just grew our own food in our own backyards instead of spraying them down with weed killer every spring, and that's kind of like Jim Gale's whole thing, which I don't think we've had Jim on your show yet, but we got to get Jim on your show. That'd be, I'm sure you'd be interested in talking about all this stuff now that you're on this health kick. I mean, I always, Oh, what?
Hello?
Sorry, I just got distracted. My girlfriend sent me this, somebody on YouTube.
You're on a health kick. I'm on a health kick. We can talk to Gail, but let me tell you what the real deal is the government subsidized fast food would be terrible and it would make people like totally sick. And, you can say whatever, but the food waste that we have in America is unreal. When I was an extra in Hollywood, they used to let the extras take the food, because they couldn't give it even to homeless people because they had given homeless people the leftovers food from movie sets, and they sued Sony Studios and lost a bunch of money. So we live in a society where we can't even necessarily give away at these food banks without. You can't even just.
I used to work at a farmer's market, and we would have leftover bread at the end of the day. And bread, you don't just put it away and sell it next week. It's going to go bad in a couple days. So at the end of the market, my boss would let me take home some bread, and I would always take home 5 or 6 loaves and spread them around my group of friends and family. And then one day I just had the idea let me share this bread with some homeless people, see, if we can get this bread into good hands, just feeling good vibes that day. And I'll tell you, dude, how unappreciative these people seemed. And given, they don't have a toaster, they don't have a bread knife. So if I hand them a loaf of bread, they're kind of like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? But it was a little disheartening when I handed someone a loaf and then, come around the same street 20 minutes later and that loaf I handed somebody is ripped to shreds on the ground,
Yeah, but what do you expect? I mean, that's the thing. That's the other thing. So I do believe we have the resources. We could probably totally end homelessness. And maybe I'm just totally far out there. Because, we could, the military industrial complex takes so much stuff, and a lot of them are veterans that are homeless. But the problem is a lot of homeless people just they don't want to be helped. They have mental health issues.
They're comfortable living in the open air.
Yeah, or they're just so far gone mentally, they can't even get organized enough to even, go and sign up for social services to help themselves.
Well, yeah, and I think that just goes to show that our society has problems inherent to it that it can't solve in and of itself, because it is the source of those problems. They're just it's like a tree trying to cut its limbs off to save itself from being infected by the parasite when, the parasite's already in its trunk, it's in the roots, it's everywhere, it's, killing a tree. You can't just cut the limbs off and expect the tree to heal again. It's that kind of approach that we tend to take in every, I don't know, in the Western world at least, seems like that's the general approach, the, cut and slash and burn and see if that fixes it.
Well, I'm about to cut and burn my diet. I'm about to cut and burn a lot of these calories is what I got to do. But, I'm telling you, man. But I'm telling you, though, that fast food is terrible for you. The more you eat it, the more you crave it. So,
Agreed.
I guess my point, what I was trying to say is, you were teaching me, because not you were teaching in a good way how I'm eating all that bad food. But, I was purposely letting myself go a little bit, too, show, it would be more of a dramatic weight loss. But now that I'm starting, I'm kind of like, why was I doing that? Why didn't I know? It's like instant regret, but it's okay.
You were justifying your hedonism. That's all right.
Exactly. You nailed it. I was justifying my hedonism, and now I'm like, why was I eating 3 milkshakes a day? I mean, I was using this thing. Some days I would have 4 milkshakes because I have the McDonald's app, and you can use one coupon an hour, and there's always a coupon. Like they have certain coupons that are always there, and there's always a coupon for buy a shake and get a shake free. And there's always a coupon for $1 French fries. But you can only use it 1 an hour. So like sometimes I would go in during the day and be like, oh, I'm going to go get a milkshake and use my milkshake coupon. And I'd go 2 times. Then I'd go later in the afternoon and get the fries for $1 and like a burger with no meat. And it'd be like $2. Because like I think I'm getting a snack. And in my mind, I don't think it's that bad. So I'm like, oh, it's only like $2 or $3. Like what the fuck? It's not that much food. But dude, when you do that twice a day, it's like terrible. But I really have. But let me tell you this other sad thing. I don't know if I told you this either. This is so messed up, Mark. And this is why I got to stop eating at McDonald's. My mom died 2 months ago. I don't want to get too deep into it, but before she died, they were not feeding her, so I would bring her in milkshakes. And the first couple of days she was in there, she was able to, I was able to give her milkshakes. So that's the last meals I ever had with my mom were vanilla McDonald's milkshakes. And it just blows my mind, so it's like I just going there, the nostalgia, because I just lost her, and like drinking those milkshakes makes me think of her. So it's like I'm eating there for emotional reasons, not just nothing to do with ill hunger. I'm not really drinking milkshakes. I'm hungry necessarily. I'm just like craving the chemical response from eating there.
Right. Yeah. And I do think you mentioned that to me, but I mean, that's kind of why I asked you like what your thoughts are on 2022 with your show. Cause I know the show is very important to you. You love live streaming. You love your audience. They're in love with you. I mean, I've never seen someone get $1,000 donation in one night. That was crazy.
I've done that multiple times.
But
I don't want to be like that. But listen,
here's
Mark,
the thing. I don't mean to cut you off, but I was making a point that your boy is able to live stream now, and I got it all hooked up and set up. So I'm just waiting in the wings here for you to have me back on your show so we can do some cross live streams and get into some stuff.
You're ready to do some live shit together. And I agree, Mark. We do need to ramp it up, But this is the one thing I was thinking about, like when I was walking the dogs. It was actually last night, and I was thinking about it. And I love the car business. I still have to sell cars. And a friend of mine, I was just messaging him, I got lucky that a friend of mine out of college ended up buying like 4 or 5 Meineke car care centers. So even though I haven't been hustling a lot of cars lately, he gets a lot of mechanic lane cars, and they don't really want to sell them. So he's been letting me sell them. So I've been making good commissions for my friends. So what I'm saying is I'm still appreciative to be in the car business. I still do it. But I am so freaking happy that I have my show and get to create content, and that I have an audience, and that, I'm not making a ton of money from it, but I'm making a little bit of money, a very little bit. But I'm saying it brings me so much joy that, like, I know what I like. You know what I mean? It's like, right. I don't even know how to explain. Like, I'm so happy I'm finally doing this. I regret not doing this earlier. And right. I just, every time, like, I think, like, oh, man, because I haven't been going live as much, but that's just because I haven't been kind of in a bad funk, like, because I'm just not emotional. It's not really an energy thing. But whenever I have that kind of low energy, like, oh, I should, I got to come up with an idea. Like, you need to sit down and think of an idea. I'm like, fuck, I could either do that, or I'd have to sit down and look at the car auction list for an hour or two. I'm like, I would rather sit for an hour or two and write some comedic thing, or think of some, meeting to troll, or look online for, some organization to go try to call out. That's
and
so
what's
fun.
What's so cool about what you're saying is I think that is becoming a reality for a lot more people in this new world we're living in, with the whole internet money that's coming in. I was just listening to Greg Carlwood on his Plus member show talk about some NFTs that he was getting into, and I don't know a single thing about it, but it's exciting.
Let me cut you off. I think crypto is a good deal. I'm happy Rock Band, they're paying in crypto, like that's a good thing. But dude, NFTs to me, from my little knowledge of crypto, seems like the biggest scam in the world, because yes, you own it, but all you have is a digital receipt saying you own it. You can still copy and paste or cut, literally screenshot a freaking NFT and post it like it's yours. I mean, so I get that there's some sort of digital security and it's backed by the blockchain. But if you, like this Bitcoin expert that knows way more than me that I was listening to is like, NFT, Bitcoin's just a functioning, is just a tool that NFT uses to function. They're not one and the same thing. You see what I'm saying? Like,
right.
NFTs, people are just buying them because they want this digital art, and the reason why they can claim it as owning it is because you have the blockchain technology. But an NFT isn't necessarily Bitcoin. Like, you know what I mean? It's not a cryptocurrency.
Well,
So
here's the thing. Here's the thing. So I agree with that. Where I was going was with, the excitement of where we're heading and how, content creation and making funny content is literally like, that's a new commodity that had a lot more, doors you would have to get through in order to make a living doing that. Now those doors are pretty much gone, and it's just up to, the listeners to basically decide who they think is funny. And I think that's a more organic way for us to find entertainment in the first place. So, instead of a movie studio telling people like, oh yeah, this guy's great, you'll love him, people find who they love on their own. But that was where I was going. But since you brought up the point about NFTs, I will say Greg talked about that, and I don't want to give away exactly what he was talking about because it was part of his like Plus member content, but he's talking about how this like game that he's part of, that's like, you buy an NFT, but the NFT works in this game in a way where you generate all of this, whatever currency it is in this new coin, and the game itself, it's kind of like they took the process of how these coins are minted and gamified it. So he's not buying, I don't think he's buying art. He's buying somewhat of like a piece of this process that creates, a stake. So that to me is exciting because I'm just like, oh, wow, there's a new way that this guy's making money. And obviously he's got some money to throw around into that stuff. It sounds like you need a couple $100 in Ethereum to even get into something like that. But yeah, I just, being on Rockfin, I just converted my first Ray token into Ethereum and then into cash. And that was exciting.
So you did cash it. You didn't keep it in Ethereum. You decided to actually turn the Ethereum into cash. I don't blame you. You needed that money.
Yeah, well, I needed the money, but also I definitely see the value in holding it, and I probably will moving forward because the Patreon's been returning a lot. A lot of people like the Best Friend Book Club, which is great, but it also bothers me because now I have to give away more of my books. But
and you wanted to see how to convert it and how it converts. I don't blame you. I just saying I've converted it into Ethereum. But I haven't cashed it out yet. That's the only reason I'm kind of like, oh, shit, you already did it, And it was and what was the process like? I haven't even done.
I'm blessed. Shout out to my homie Kevin, who supports in the Patreon, and he hooked me up with the few sponsors that we have. But he's very knowledgeable, so he walked me through it and helped me out with it because you do need to have Ethereum to cover the transaction fees.
Yeah, gas fee. So
yeah,
he sends you that. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I didn't know that either the first time I did it.
But it seems like it's easier now than when I first tried to figure it out because Coinbase Wallet, and Uniswap is what I used, and it was pretty simple.
Well, listen. Once you get, like I said, I made my first move. I just turned some into Ethereum, and then I haven't turned that Ethereum into cash. I was just going to hold the Ethereum because I thought the value, just to have, and I kept a lot of Ray. But like I'm just like new into it, like you, I haven't even done converting it into cash. So it was a pretty easy process.
Yeah, it was easy. I mean, I probably paid like $40-something just to convert it.
Gas fees.
But I've heard it gets as high as like $400, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know it does, and especially if it's like, it gets way higher. If it's like a lot of money or something, if it's like thousands of bucks, I think it's like gets in the hundreds pretty quick.
Well,
it's expensive, dude. I guess that's how they make a whole nother ecosystem of economy money. A whole different economy of just the miners and the gas fees they can charge. That has nothing to do with the Bitcoin.
Well, it's exciting because it can all blow up. that's the value of holding the Ray, because you never know, like Rockfin overnight, the value can go. Because I remember 3-4 weeks ago when I was like, oh wow, I'm getting a lot of Ray token here on the Rockfin account. I saw it was at like $1 per Ray token, and then like within a few weeks it went from like $1.50 to like almost $2, and then went back down to like $1.60 when I cashed in. So I think there's definitely a point to hold the Ray as long as you can, because it seems like Rockfin's not going anywhere. They're growing, and what's cool is there's, you know, I didn't expect to get into the whole fucking crypto conversation right now, but Polygon apparently is a new crypto that's going to be built into basically what Rockfin is, kind of like they're going to build it around a multimedia sharing platform. So that's good news for us creating content, because, you know, these kind of platforms like Rockfin are only just beginning. Like Rockfin's the flagship, and Float, who I know personally, I've met the people behind Float. They seem really cool. They're in line with everything we believe in, so they're not like some Mark Zuckerberg fucks that we got to worry about in 5 years. I can attest to them. They're nice people. but
and
you know,
Mark may
they're
have
still
been
in
an okay guy. Mark may have been an okay guy when he was a kid. I don't know, you know, before he had to sell his soul, probably.
True. And when you said that, I almost thought you were talking about me for a second. And that's also another reason why I probably dislike this guy Mark Zuckerberg so much, because he has the same first name as me. But yeah, I think Float's a good example of a app that's really like only just getting off the ground, and a lot of podcasters, I think, have accounts on it. I haven't really used it much because I just have so many other places that I publish the show that it just seems like it would take forever to put all my content in all these different places. But I think that's my 2022 resolution, is to get on Float, get on Rumble, get on Odyssey, get on BitChute, and get in touch with maybe people who are in those sectors that don't know about my show yet, possibly. And then, yeah, live stream, you know, because Rockfin makes it easy. I don't know if you do this, but I stream free on Rockfin, and then after the live stream is over, I put it behind the paywall, and that seems to be a good way to get new Rockfin people, because you get way more money for that than you do anything else on Rockfin when you get somebody to sign up. So
yeah, I know. I haven't been doing the premium content as much. I'm about to start doing that. I'm about to take the content. I'm about to get more organized with it here. You know, and I say that, but I'm guessing by the summer is kind of my goal, because I know that'll be 2 years. It's kind of my 2-year anniversary. I think is in May, the end of March. I mean, the end of April. And so that's kind of when I want to be like dialed in and kind of maybe have a schedule and really get my show.
Right.
Because right now, like I said, I still create, like I still just want to do what I feel, like what I just think is funny, or what I don't want to even have a schedule and even put that on myself. I just want to let myself have a little pressure to create and do so. It's just, I do it when I want to, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then I hopefully after 2 years, like I just monetized my YouTube channel. So now I can get super chats and stuff. I'm just saying I'm going to hopefully, like you want to put on other outlets, maybe I'm on enough outlets, but I just maybe organize my system and actually create content behind a paywall, or create content just for paying people, you know, exclusive to them, in order to make it more professional, you know?
Right. Well, and that's the other side of it, is I want to create a a membership platform on my site. So then Patreon will just be like phased out. It'll still be there for people who love Patreon, but yeah, I definitely, those people who are with me now in the Patreon will be grandfathered in to the new membership platform. But yeah, I guess it's, you know, what the big guys, the big players do is they use Stripe, right? So I set up that account, and yeah, the plan is to find somebody who can help me put it into the website in a neat way so it looks halfway decent. And
Wait, I don't even know what Stripe is. What is Stripe?
So Stripe is just a payment processor. So, you know, they work with anybody.
You can charge memberships?
Yeah, they'll do a whole range of things for anybody who's doing like online services. But yeah, for podcasters, you can charge people a monthly subscription fee, or there's also like a feature where you can sell them a podcast, like you could like on iTunes, you know, where it's like a fixed price to download it, you know, which
like 99 cents or something.
Which I don't like that, because people can just go and pirate your content. Someone would buy it and then just show it to a bunch of other people. So
yeah.
But either way, that's the direction I'm moving in. I don't know how it's going to come out with Alt Media United, because I think there's a cool opportunity for us to maybe create a membership platform where multiple shows have their premium content in one place. But I also think that that's like a thing that, everybody has to be like willing to participate in. So it wouldn't be something that the whole Alt Media United cooperative would change to. It would just be like maybe like a product of the cooperative. Like this was started in the cooperative and became its own thing outside of the cooperative. Does that make any sense?
Yes, because it'd have to be its own thing that manifested.
Right, like it wouldn't be financially connected to the cooperative, because there are people in the cooperative who have, their own membership platforms already set up, and that's why I invited them into the cooperative, because I'm like, well, these guys are our, people to look up to, and they can share some info and knowledge if they're so gracious, and some have. Darren and Graham are probably some of the most helpful podcasters, I'll say, in the cooperative. Darren's always chiming in and helping people out in the Telegram, which I never see you post on Telegram. You're never on Telegram. Is that something that you're going to try using?
Let's talk about Telegram, and then I got to go. Everybody's on Telegram now. Why am I not on Telegram? I'm such an idiot. Are you a Telegram head now?
Well, I guess so, because so many people were already there in the first place. Like when I started helping out the Union of the Unwanted, that's what they invited me into. They're like, all right, we'll join our Telegram group, so because that's where they all chat and whatnot. And anybody who's been on the Union of the Unwanted as a guest, which you have, should be able to join that. So I'll send you an invite. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, there's at least 15 or 20 people in my Patreon that are also in my Telegram, and some of them join the Patreon after being in the Telegram. So it's a cool way to connect, like I feel like it's one thing to be like when you're at like Carl Wood's level or Sam's level, like you have so many people hitting you up, you can't connect with each individual person. But for me and you, right now at our current stage, we have a little bit more time to do something like that. And there are certain people, I'll say, who like, they're very helpful. Like they like your show and they want to help you out. Like Brian, shout out to Rhythmic Dragon, was just telling me about my levels. According to him, my audio levels sound a little wonky, so I got to fix that. Sorry to everybody out there with a trained ear. I am not a professional audio technician. I'm learning all of this, but yeah, long story short, Telegram's a great way to get in touch with the people who like your show. And then on the other side of it, I post pictures in there, videos, and I even get like voice messages. Like I asked everybody to send me a 30-second clip of their name, where they're from, and why their family thinks they're crazy in 1 or 2 sentences, and we got some pretty hilarious responses. Do you want to hear one of them right now?
Yeah, why not? I need to get just motivate me to get my Telegram going.
Right. And you can live stream on Telegram. You can video chat on Telegram. You can even, if you have a mixer like me, you can even like have a video chat and record it and do a podcast on Telegram. So it's a really cool platform. So this is from my homie Tuna.
Yo, I'm Tuna, and my family thinks I'm crazy for a lot of fucking reasons, but conspiracy ain't one of them. Keep it real, man.
Hey everyone, this is Brian.
Jumped right into the
Tuna.
next clip. But yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, Tuna sounds like a real good guy. I like Tuna a lot.
Look at that. Look at that, Tuna. You got a shout out from our homie Alex. And Tuna is a patron just like you. I don't know if you even realize this, Alex, but you have a spirit animal name because you're a patron of my show. So I gave you a spirit animal name. I gave everybody a spirit animal name. Do you know yours?
Mine?
You don't know yours yet.
Let me guess it. It is, if I have Sky Bear, it'd have to be something Coyote Wolf, Blue Wolf.
Blue Wolf. Yeah, that would be cool if you were a blue wolf. So let me just, before I tell you your spirit animal name, let me just tell you.
It's not as cool as blue wolf, but okay, go ahead.
Let me just tell you, we don't pick, we don't hand pick your spirit animal name. It comes randomly from 2 decks of tarot cards. One of them is all animal tarot cards, and then the other one is kind of like a Native American tarot card deck. So it kind of gives you like your quality, right? So some examples of some cool spirit animal names are peyote butterfly, humorous moth, responsible tiger, thunder dragon.
Oh, I like this. I like these.
So your spirit animal name is the fertile mouse.
Okay, that makes me nervous for 2 fucking reasons. For one reason, the other night, this girl, I told you that Olive Garden girl, she came over to my house, or she didn't come over to my house. Long story short, I'd messaged her and I went on a date like a year ago, and we were just stayed friendly. She sends me this message, like basically kind of almost saying like, hey, if you want to hang out, I'm down to, I'm like almost basically saying I'm horny in a way. I don't know how to say it. I have to look at the message and see how she said it. And I sent her like, I'm down, I'm kind of in a weird place. I recently like lost my mom or something. I kind of gave her like that. Not I was trying to get pity, like for her to fool around with me, just telling her like, I'm kind of not in an emotional state. Like, I don't know if we should just have casual sex. And she was kind of persistent. She's like, no, let's do it. And I was kind of like, okay, fuck it, let's do it. And so we've had casual sex a couple times since then, and it's just one of those times I didn't wear a condom, and I don't think I ejaculated in her, but now you're calling me the fertile mouse. I mean, this is not that long ago. What are the chances?
Damn, dude. Okay, so, and you know what's interesting? I gave you that spirit animal name in October. Or no. Yeah, I think October is when I first started the spirit animal name. So everybody who...
The fact you didn't tell me till now is weird. Like right after I just recently got laid without a condom, raw dogged a chick. That is so weird.
Well, we got to find out the spiritual significance of the mouse.
Well, I don't have that big of a dick, so maybe it's just because I have a normal sized penis. It's the mouse. It's my, because maybe instead of it being like the cobra, it's just like the mouse.
Right. Well, you would be wrong there because cobras don't have penises. So a mouse has a bigger penis than a cobra.
No, but I'm saying like a mouse is like, I don't know. I mean, my penis almost looks like a mouse. I mean, not hard, but I'm saying like a limp, my dick kind of looks like a big mouse.
Well, let's just put it this way, Alex, okay? The mouse is associated with the underworld and is in touch with the dark powers of the deities there. However, some cultures believe that the soul took the form of a mouse at death or during astral travel. So, there's a lot. The magical attributes of the mice, secrets, cunning, the ability to remain inconspicuous or invisible in appearance signals the need to watch for small details and fine print or the double meaning in words. So there are a lot of warnings that come with having the mouse as a spirit animal. And remember, spirit animals are not forever. They're just a symbol of who you are in the moment. So yeah, it's interesting that you have that connection. Are you ready to be a father?
No, dude, I'm not ready to be a father, but I mean, I don't think she's pregnant. I mean, it's just, what are the chances? So what is the fertility symbolism in the Native American? Like, I wonder what that card meant. Was it like a pregnant woman? What's the symbology between fertility?
You got the Coco Pele card. The Coco Pele card, which is so weird because I just picked up the deck and I'm like, all right, shit, I got to look through 44 cards to find the one that, and the one right at the bottom was this one, fertility, which is Coco Pele. So a little bit of synchronicity there for our synchronicity watchers. Wow. But yeah, so Coco Pele is a very rich symbol, a mythological symbol. Let's DuckDuckGo it. We don't use Google. We DuckDuckGo things. I know you said you had to go, but it seems like I've compelled you enough to stay. I'll keep this short, but Coco Pele is usually depicted as a humpbacked flute player with feathers or antenna-like protrusions on his head, who is venerated by some Native American cultures in the Southwest United States.
Wait, say that again. He's a flute player with what? 2 heads? What was this thing?
With 2 antenna-like protrusions on his head or feathers.
So he's like a fairy or something, or like a weird like gnome type thing, like a Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, you could imagine him like a Jar Jar Binks. I'll send you a picture, but yeah, so they say another theory about Coco Pelli is that he's actually an anthropomorphic insect. Oh, that's interesting because mice eat insects. Huh. I never seen that before. But yeah, so it's a fertility symbol, and he's supposed to be playing a flute, and you know, you're a performer in a sense. I mean, you've acted, you've been in
I'm a performer,
productions.
100%.
You know, you perform in the street, you perform in the bed, you know, you do all
dude, I perform in the club, dude. I perform in the locker room, the weight room, dude. There's nowhere I don't perform. I perform in the cat's room. I mean, dude, it's just, I can't believe I didn't get I can't believe I got fertility, dude. What are the chances, bro? That's really,
well let's go,
really tripping me out.
Let's go and give you a reading for right now, because that was a little stale. We gotta give you a reading right now. So we're gonna pull 2 cards out of the Sacred Spirit deck.
And this would probably be better with a visual representation of the card, but I guess you can explain it just as good.
Yeah, well, yes, that would be optimal. This is from the Sacred Path deck.
I think Skybear knows we're doing something satanic or something wrong.
Oh my God.
He's freaking out. He can tell that this isn't... Skybear's a really big Christian, so he knows some...
Skybear is not a really big Christian.
He is. He's a real big Christian guy. He's one of the biggest
cats
Christian
love
cat
magic,
influencers.
dude.
I know, but Skybear's not. He was a victim of magic as a kitten, so he's dedicated his life to the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Is he a black cat?
No, he's gray and white. He just likes the Bible. He likes to sleep on it.
Right. Okay. So he's in the White Hat Cat League.
Mm-hmm. He just rests on it, and I think he learns through osmosis. He really is a biblical way about him, the way he licks his fur, and he even eats like I imagine you would eat when they ate during the Bible times. So he's just really connected to it. But enough about Skybear's religion. I would love to pull this card and see what the heck I got cooking up. Because
you're heading towards a victory.
What, dude? I need to take a W, man. I've been taking all these L's lately. And Mark, I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that because I just stood up for a second and got a little rush of blood to my head. But dude, I took so many L's in 2021, like constantly, not just with and like you could say, channel grew or something. Like I could find like little victories and stuff, but overall, like nothing really stuck out. Even like the videos that Ben Shapiro showed that got like a million views or whatever, like I look back at that, like I could care less. I don't have any pleasure. Like I almost like don't like it because I need to do it again. It's almost like a drug. So what I'm saying is I do feel like somewhere I have to catch a break. Like even if 2022 is, I'm not even expecting it to be a much better year. I'm just saying in general, like the roller coaster ride of life, I've been down. I deserve an upswing here. I deserve something to be knocking around the corner. Something should be around the corner for me that should put me in a good mood. Probably only temporarily, but I'll take it. Even if it only temporarily makes me happy for a week or two.
Well, here's the thing. You can be temporary because, we might read you again next week or a week after that, and you might have a different set of challenges. So this is telling you what's coming ahead right now, hopefully in the next couple days. So there is a victory in the cards. We pulled the Counting Coup card, which is a symbolizing a victory. And then adding a feather to your war stick, which is sort of like it keeps a record of your victories, right? So I think you have a victory coming your way, and it's going to come through fire medicine, which is...
What does that mean?
Well, you have to use some spontaneity and connect with what you're passionate about. And that may
fire medicine.
That may
I
lead
like
to a situation where
Does that mean weed?
Well, no. It could mean like a sweat lodge, but it also could mean like doing something like an endeavor, like this fitness castle month, right? Now there is the last 2 cards. We pulled 4 cards here. our cradle board and moon lodge. And the cradle board represents the ability to respond. So you need to be responsible. I think that, and there is a baby on this card, so that may be what you're...
Another baby card, dude?
So
and
you...
I just raw dogs a chick?
So you need to be more responsible, that's for sure. And that might mean retreating. That's what the Moon Lodge card represents. And channeling that...
I can't raw dog this chick anymore is exactly what that means.
Well, it means retreating into, like, channeling your passion and being spontaneous with what you're passionate about, which, you know, given what we talked about earlier, might be creating content, like you said, and that's going to lead you to a victory, I think. So, and also the otter is with you for this as your spirit guide, so to speak. So if you can go by a river and spend time by the river, that would be a good place to connect with the otter energy, and you might find some answers that you might be looking for. Because you need to be responsible with this whole thing you just laid out. I mean, there's no... In this realm, in the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast realm, there are no coincidences, brother. So the fact that the Fertile Mouse and the Cradle Board card came to you is just... it's just an indication that maybe you need to retreat and be a little more careful about what you're doing and plan things out. And yeah, who knows what'll happen. Maybe it means that person's the right one for you. Maybe it means not, and you just do what you're doing.
They're not the right person for me. Gosh, I hope they're not pregnant. I hope that means I still have time to change. Gosh, I hope.
Well, there is no worry on that. We have plenty of time. The world is not ending anytime soon. We have the whole world ahead of us.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, the world, I feel like, I mean, I don't know if the world is going to end, but I just feel like... You know,
the world's going to keep on moving.
Yeah, the world's going to keep going no matter what, but I'm saying, like, I used to think, like, oh, life is, like, real long or whatever. Even though I'm, like, afraid of death and I think about death so much, dude, it's just, man, I'm just telling you, it's before we know it, even if we live a long life, even if we're like Betty White, we're going to be, like, 99. You know she didn't want to die. Like, it's never enough, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Did Betty White die?
Dude, yes, R.I.P. Are you kidding, dude? The last day of the year is the biggest news of the year.
Yesterday she died?
Yes, and she fucking, they won't even admit that she definitely had to get the COVID because they had, her last article, she just had a People article talking about how she felt. She was so thankful for her good health. And they were filming a huge 100th birthday party for her in 17 days, January 17th. And I'm sure she had to get vaccinated to do all that filming shit. And then they said she just died of natural causes.
Wow, you heard it here first, folks. The real Betty White conspiracy. Damn, I did not expect that. And that's funny because I have heard 3 people mention the Golden Girls in the past few days, which is really weird. Gordon White, in a conversation he had in September, I was listening to a podcast that he did on the Higher Side Chats, and he said he was watching the Golden Girls. And then my mom, just now, today, went to hang out with her friends, and they watched the Golden Girls. So... maybe that's why they watched it.
What are the fucking chances, dude? And it's funny. I was talking about the Golden Girls the other day. I mean, I think there is a lot of synchronicity with that. Wow, that's weird.
You're the third person.
Yeah, I mean, that's just weird. It's just weird. I mean, because she was on my mind before she died for whatever. This girl sent me this. I would talk about her on the Baby Truther show, and then just this a girl named Mary, just a fan, of the show. An Instagram fan sent me a picture of how she dressed up as the Golden Girls for Halloween, and then literally the next second is Betty White's dead. So it's weird. It's really weird. Well, Mark, like I said, life is short. Even
for the first day of 2022, Alex. Okay, this episode's probably coming out this Wednesday, so tell the listeners where to find you, what to expect from you, because it's 2022, brother. I know I gotta let you go because you're a busy man. You got things to do. But here we are, starting the new year off the right way. I remember last year we started the new year off on the Idiocalypse podcast a bunch. You remember those days?
Was that when did we kill that show? When did I accidentally kill that show? Oh,
don't put that on me. I was not participating in killing that show.
A little bit. Your vibes were there. I mean, I killed it, but it's funny because there had been some beef between me and Cheney before, But it's neither here nor there. Forget about the Idiocalypse. It's not all my fault I got killed, even though I was the executioner. When was that? When was that happened?
That was it had to be last January, because I remember we did the end of the year
It was right
with them.
after. Yeah, it was right after fucking January 6th. Well, it was, or was it right before January 6th?
No, I think it was after, because that was the sensitive point that got everybody bickering. But things change.
That was a year. Oh, Mark, I hate to keep cutting you off, but didn't this year go by so fast? But doesn't that feel like forever ago?
Yeah. Well, and it also feels like 2020 and 2021 blended together. I've been saying that.
Yeah.
Here and there.
True.
And yeah, I don't know. Oh, also I was on Tinfoil Hat, the Swarmies, and I forgot to mention you. I'm sorry, buddy. You were one of my favorite guests on Tinfoil Hat. I will say that for the record, but I did not remember to mention that. But I did mention some other stuff that I regret. So go ahead and listen to that if you want to laugh at me.
You mentioned you regret. What do you regret mentioning?
Nothing. It's just the way it came out. I always get nervous talking to Sam, whether it's recorded or not. So yeah, it was just a little nerve-wracking, and that's why I want to have XG on my show. That's why I want to have Johnny on the show, and maybe if Sam isn't so busy, we'll have him as a guest on the show too, because I feel like there's still a lot of room for me and the guys to get to know each other. Even though I work as the booker for the show, I really don't talk to them that often. So that's probably why I feel a little awkward about it. But maybe not. Maybe you'll listen and be like, what are you talking about? That was great. Maybe I'm just insecure.
Dude, it's hard to just try to talk in any pod. It's not hard because you do it, but I'm saying, like, when you're trying to be witty or trying to remember stuff, like, you just forget stuff all the time.
And also, I'm not funny, nor am I pretending that I'm a comedian. I mean, I think I'm funny every now and then, but I
think you're funny.
Well, thank you. But, talking to Sam, it's like a whole nother, everybody has a different sense of humor. And I feel like Sam's sense of humor is it's hard to compete with, like you can't, you can't, he's great. He's hilarious. So I'm almost like, well, why am I going to make jokes? He's the guy. That's what he's here for, amongst many other things.
But Sam's really gracious guy too. He's actually pretty nice. He's good at not being the center. I mean, he is the center of attention, but he's also good at giving attention away. He's one of the few guys I respect. He's good at that. Like the tinfoil hat and stuff. I feel like he gives a lot of respect to Eddie.
Well, and Eddie deserves it.
Exactly. I'm saying he could act like it's all him, but no, Sam is he helps people out and he gives respect to the people that helped him. So that's why Sam's a good guy.
Right. Well, you can look forward to more stuff with Eddie. Can't say what I know because it is still secret, but they are going to be doing some really cool Tinfoil Hat live shows, and Eddie is definitely involved with those. So look forward to that. If you're on the West Coast, I know there's going to be a bunch of shows happening there, and obviously where you're at in Texas, they'll definitely be there again. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do something in New Jersey and I'll be able to drive down, but nobody comes up to New England. At least none of the comics I like. It's just kind of up here and hanging out with the podcast friends and all my internet friends. And you're not a
football fan. You're not a football fan, but everybody up there loves the Pats, right? I mean,
yeah, I'm not a football fan, but I live with a family of people who love sports. So yes, no, my mom likes the Steelers for some reason, and then some people in my family like the New York Giants for some reason. And
the Giants are a really popular team, so they like the Giants. Why? How far are you from New York? No, like Foxborough.
Foxwoods, you mean?
Foxborough, Connecticut.
Where's Foxborough, Connecticut? What's that? What's special about that?
That's where the Patriots play.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
I think you mean. Yeah. I think you're thinking of Massachusetts.
Oh, yes, duh. What the fuck? Why am I thinking Connecticut? Obviously, it's a masshole. Boston. Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking Connecticut.
Yeah, no. Well, there is a thing where people like on this side of the river, like the Yankees, and people on the other side of the Connecticut River, like the Red Sox. So, and then you have people everywhere in between who like weird teams. Because whenever you're in a state that doesn't have its own, professional sports teams, it's always like a competition. We like this team, they like this team, and then there's like weirdos who like random teams like the Dolphins,
Yeah, I know that people like a fucking team, and this guy Danny Gomez was born and raised in Dallas, and I worked with him for a while at Cheaters, and he loved the Dolphins. I never got it. I loved Dan Marino. I mean, he still does. He's always talking about Dolphins. The guy's only been to Miami on vacation, which is cool. I mean, I'm just saying.
Right,
it's just funny. You'd think that.
Yeah, people who like the Dolphins also like a pizza and other things like that. So I have them in my family. I'll just say, so they're Italian.
Yeah, and you know, if you're from Dallas, like you're either a diehard Dallas fan or you kind of hate the Cowboys, you know, because you're sick of or annoyed by all the Dallas Cowboy freaks.
That's the other weird one around here too. Is some people love the Cowboys for no reason.
Of course, dude, in Connecticut, yes. I don't know why I was mixing up Massachusetts and Connecticut. I guess when you said New England, I just was like, wait, what is
the Whalers back in the day? That was like a professional hockey team, the Hartford Whalers. But you know,
oh yeah,
people don't
Howard
like
Stern
to.
was in Hartford, Connecticut. Dude, there's like nothing in Hartford, Connecticut, right? I mean, literally.
It's like the insurance capital of the country. It's like all
it's
insurance buildings.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Prudential. That's what they all are. But he always talks about like the radio. His days in Hartford is like really rich people, but there's nothing.
Well, yeah, it depends on what side of Hartford you're on. I mean, the north and the south and the east sides of Hartford are not that rich, but the west side of Hartford is all, you know, glitz and glamour.
What's the capital of Connecticut? Is it Hartford?
Yes.
Wow.
I was talking about Austin with Andreas Exertis, and then when I looked it up, some more info, I found out like all kinds of interesting information on your state capital.
Dude, yeah, I mean, any city in Texas, dude, has such a rich history. And I'm not just saying that, like, Connecticut doesn't have a rich history. That probably even has a deeper one. But
well, I'll tell you what.
The Spanish-American War and stuff, there's so much
it's
cool shit,
I mean, it was its own country in one period in time. And also, like, Connecticut kind of is like that in a way because when they were colonies, that was, like, technically the British country. And it's so weird because now, I mean, half of the frickin' place names in the state are British and then the other half are like Native American, you know? So it's like this weird, like you have all these places that are like New London and Windsor and, you know, Essex and, you know, Greenwich. And then you have like Pequannock and Quinnipiac and, you know, all these other weird words that are in between. So yeah, but we could talk forever. We're pals. But tell them where to find you, and we'll end this podcast, and I'll let you go because I got some dinner staring me in the eye right now.
You just go to pornhub.com/conspiracycastle, and you're going to get all the X-rated stuff. And then if you go to pornhub.com/Alex's feet, you'll get like all of my feet content. You're going to see my feet with fettuccine Alfredo sauce and ketchup.
Wow, folks, go to the live stream right now, and we're screen sharing this. This is amazing. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah. And so if you guys want to check it out, just, you know, all you got to do is go to pornhub.com/conspiracycastle, and you're going to be able to find an RSS feed. You're going to be able to find my email address and pictures of my butthole spread open. So,
and your physical address, right? So people can show up at your house.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And my strip club where I strip if anybody wants to come see me. Yeah, so.
Well,
I make myself available. If you guys want to find me, you know, if you can't find me, you're not looking for me.
In a McDonald's parking lot near you. Alex Stein, coming soon.
God bless. All right, peace, Mark. Have a good one. I love you guys.
Good luck with the fitness castle. I hope you lose a lot of weight, and I hope you have a great 2022. I'm sure I'll talk to you real soon.
I got to check my fertility mouse, but hopefully I didn't get any girl pregnant. Lord have mercy. All right, peace.
Peace.